Chapter 489. Inviting Lin Feng to his sect as a guest, the old sword immortal was actually sighing in his heart. Among the great powers of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land, the one who had the closest relationship with Xianmen Tianzong was the Purple Cloud Dao. That was during the Desolate Sea Assembly, when Lin Feng established a friendship with the big shot of the Purple Cloud Dao, Lord Blue Thunder. After Xianmen Tianzong dominated the Kunlun mountain range, the Purple Cloud Dao was the first to congratulate him, so the relationship between the two sides became closer. But in fact, long before Xianmen Tianzong opened his sect, the Heavenly Sword sect had already been in contact with Xianmen Tianzong. It was a pity that there was no further development, so the two sides gradually became estranged. At this moment, the old sword immortal was trying his best to make up for his previous mistakes. Lin Feng did not mind this. It was not a bad thing to unite allies. Not only the Heavenly Sword sect, but the other sects also did not discriminate and accepted the goodwill expressed by the other party. In the end, everyone chatted happily and bid farewell to each other. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Fellow Taoists, we will meet again." After saying this, he turned into a ray of light and broke through the void and left. After everyone watched him leave, the venue was silent for a moment. Everyone's thoughts were fluctuating, and countless thoughts flashed through their minds. The Flying Snow Sword Venerable and the Glorious Sun Sword Venerable looked at each other and sighed softly. They had the same thought in their minds. After being disturbed by the Shushan Sword sect, the alliance meeting was originally ruined, but the Xian Men sect master's action strengthened everyone's confidence in continuing to fight against Shushan. It's just that before the gathering, the source of this confidence was the great Qin dynasty, but after the gathering, it became Xianmen Tianzong. This result was also within Lin Feng's expectations. However, he thought a level deeper. Is this another thank you gift from Emperor Qin Stonefeather to me? Or is it a test? But he probably did not expect the final outcome to be like this. After the people from Shushan arrived, the great Qin dynasty could actually rush to support, but in the end, they chose to remain silent and let Lin Feng take action. However, Stonefeather did not expect that Lin Feng would be able to defeat the invading enemies of Mount Shu in an extremely short period of time. In the end, other than losing face for Shu Mountain, the prestige of the great Qin dynasty was also damaged. After weighing the pros and cons, Stonefeather ultimately chose to remain silent. Although it would damage the prestige of the great Qin dynasty, he would completely transfer the pressure of the Mount Shu sword sect to Xianmen Tianzong. He would retreat behind the scenes and free up his hands to clean up the aristocratic families within the country. The gains and losses are like drinking water, only one knows whether it is hot or cold. Stonefeather believed that Lin Feng would be able to clearly see the relationship between them. In this way, it would be equivalent to selling a favor to Xianmen Tianzong in a disguised form, and the two of them would form an additional layer of good karma. Lin Feng was in the void, traversing through space. As he walked, he pondered. A faint smile appeared on his lips. If you want to take something, you must first give it. Stonefeather understands this logic very well. His consciousness entered the system and checked his reputation. Then, he discovered that his reputation points around the world had all broken through 80. Even if some places did not reach 80 currently, their potential had reached 80. As time passed, the influence of the battle with Mount Shu would continue to ferment. The potential reputation points of these places would eventually all be converted into true reputation points. For Lin Feng, the greatest gain from this battle was the soaring reputation points. He had single-handedly defeated a group of primordial spirit sword cultivators from Mount Shu, broken the 6 Meridian Heavenly Sword formation, slain Xian Longsheng's Mystique Dharmakaya, and seized the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords. Any one of these could make Lin Feng's name resound throughout the Divine Continent. And now that all these things were gathered together, it immediately caused Lin Feng's personal reputation to soar. He had officially become a major figure on the same level as Yan Nanlai, Xian Longsheng, and the others. My personal reputation points are already a lot more than the previous requirement of 80, but... Lin Feng looked at the reputation points in the system and frowned slightly. But the overall reputation of the sect is still a little lacking. After this battle, Lin Feng's personal reputation points, no matter in the region, had already exceeded 80. In some places, it had even exceeded 90. He had already completely fulfilled the requirements of the system's mission. The overall reputation of Xianmen Tianzong had also reached 80 in most regions, but in some places, it was a little lacking. The lowest region was only 70. After today's battle, Lin Feng's name had completely shaken the world. Naturally, the reputation of Xianmen Tianzong that he had founded had also risen along with it. But compared to his own personal reputation, it was still somewhat lacking. After all, personal reputation and the overall reputation of the sect could not be completely equated. In the history of the great heaven primordial world, there had been powerful loose cultivators who had written resplendent chapters that shone brilliantly. Even the 3 holy lands had to give way to them. But in the end, the orthodoxy that they had left behind had not been able to develop and grow, nor had they left behind any reputation. When people mentioned such sects, they would only say that they were the orthodoxy inheritances left behind by some powerful person. Lin Feng recalled the time when the overall reputation of the sect had greatly increased in the past. He had a rough idea in his heart. My personal reputation has a certain impact, but the disciples of the sect have made a name for themselves. The impact on the overall reputation of the sect is even more obvious. Thinking of this, Lin Feng smiled. It's about time for the few brats of my family to mature. For example, Shi Tianhao and the others, their own paths of destiny had already gradually opened. They had written their own legends, stepped onto their own stage, and emitted a brilliance that attracted the attention of the world. Lin Feng suddenly laughed a little unscrupulously. Mount Shu Sword Sect, why do you think I spared you this time? I'm familiar with the self-cultivation of directors and scriptwriters. Of course, I remember that on the most dazzling and grandest stage, other than the main character, there must also be enough supporting characters. But this time, I still have to thank you for your warmth. Unlike the others who were only guessing, Lin Feng had a much clearer understanding of the gains and losses of this battle. Aside from the great reputation, Lin Feng also had many other gains. He flipped his palm and a sharp sword energy struggled inside a cloud of violet energy. This was a strand of sword energy that Lin Feng had captured after killing Xian Longxing's immortal heaven sword sovereign avatar. This sword energy was extremely ferocious. Even with Lin Feng's magic power, he couldn't restrain it. It was possible to kill it, but it was very difficult to restrain it for a long time without destroying it. However, Lin Feng didn't plan to keep it. After returning to Jade Capital Mountain, he directly sent it into the Black Heaven Time Light Grotto. There, the giant sword box was the true home of this sword energy. With this sword energy, the refinement of the ominous sword would be much faster. In fact, Lin Feng was well aware that Xian Longxing might have the same idea. He was trying to comprehend the ominous sword's sword intent to improve Shu Mountain's sword Dao. Xian Longxing of Shushan was in seclusion and did not come out. It looked like he could only lead the revered swordsman of Little Shang and the others back in a sorry state. He even had his Dharmakaya destroyed. Although it was shameful, he had personally experienced the heaven-punishing sword Qi. It was more or less beneficial for him to study the sword will of the ominous sword. Unfortunately, he didn't actually obtain this peerless ominous sword. With Xian Longxing's sword Dao cultivation, just touching the heaven-punishing sword energy was like scratching an itch through his boots. It didn't help much and instead made him yearn for Lin Feng's ominous sword even more. Lin Feng was different. He didn't expect to learn Shu Mountain's heaven-punishing sword energy. He only wanted to use this supreme sword Dao to help him sharpen his sword. While advancing and retreating, he gained some benefits. It was just that outsiders wouldn't know of these gains. However, Lin Feng was increasingly looking forward to the day when this peerless ominous sword would truly appear. As he pondered, Lin Feng felt the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords he had also suppressed trembling, trying to break free. Lin Feng's consciousness swept over and saw a figure appear beside the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords. They weren't illusory, but real bodies formed from sword intent and sword qi. They were the sword spirits of the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords. The Shaoyang sword spirit was a dignified and steady middle-aged man. He wore a wide robe and had 3 strands of black beard. His expression was calm and dignified. The Taiyin sword spirit was a woman. She had a beautiful face and a cold demeanor. Her temperament was unpredictable. The 2 sword spirits formed a sword seal together. Sword Chi soared into the sky, resisting the yellow light above their heads. The yellow light was as heavy as the earth. It was the power of Lin Feng's heaven mandate seal that was suppressing them. Other than the yellow light, there were countless layers of space folded together, forming a sparkling crystal wall-like barrier that formed the second layer of seal. Above the crystal wall, the small world formed by the mass of purple gas was the third layer of seal. As if realizing that Lin Feng was looking at them, the 2 sword spirits looked over and met Lin Feng's gaze. The Shaoyang sword spirit said in a low voice, "Are you the master of the celestial gate? Holding me and Taiyin here is too rash. You have bullied Shu Mountain too much." Lin Feng's calm and composed voice quietly echoed in the small world of heavens. Those who humiliate others will always be humiliated by others. You have met with this calamity today only because your Shushan has brought it upon yourselves. The Shaoyang sword spirit was silent for a moment. He was a sword spirit, and his personality was of the same origin as the sword Dao of the Shaoyang sword. He had always been calm and dignified. Even the sword master of Shu Mountain's Shaoyang sword sect, Sword Venerable Shaoyang, was the most composed and kind among the 6 sword masters. The Sword Venerable Shaoyang didn't leave Shu Mountain this time because his sect master and grand elders were in seclusion, so the sect needed someone to manage the situation. On the other hand, he didn't like Shu Mountain's operation this time. Thus, he stayed at Shu Mountain and didn't participate. However, since it was the sect's decision, he didn't oppose it. The Shaoyang sword sect also sent Sword Venerable Sky-Reaching Sword. The Sword Venerable Shaoshang and the others expected to use the 6 Meridian Immortal Heaven Sword formation to deal with Lin Feng, so the Sword Venerable Shaoyang tacitly allowed him to bring the Shaoyang sword away. Unexpectedly, Lin Feng was too ferocious and defeated the 6 Meridian Immortal Heaven Sword formation. Xian Longsheng was in seclusion and sent the Immortal Heaven Sword Monarch's avatar, but it couldn't do anything to Lin Feng. Instead, the Shaoyang sword and Taiyin sword were taken away. The Taiyin sword spirit's eyes were cold as he said indifferently, "Shaoyang, what's the point of saying so much? It's just that the winner takes all and the loser takes all. But don't even think about making us wait helplessly for death." While speaking, her entire person merged into one with the moon sword, turning into clouds and mist, continuously moving about and attacking Lin Feng's mana seal. The Shaoyang sword spirit sighed and disappeared as well. She fused with the Shaoyang sword and turned into a golden light that soared into the sky, creating an attack even more powerful than the Taiyin sword. Seeing this, Lin Feng smiled. Both of them are peak incarnation level magic treasures, they are indeed quite energetic. Chapter 490. The Shaoyang sword's bright golden sword gleam was like a pillar that held up the sky, forcefully withstanding the suppression of Lin Feng's heaven-bearing seal. And the lunar sword turned into clouds of mist, twining around the golden sword aura, continuously stimulating the golden sword aura and assisting it wholeheartedly, causing the Shaoyang sword's sword aura to become stronger and stronger, attempting to break through Lin Feng's mana seal. Lin Feng looked at this scene with interest, and then increased the pressure on the heaven-bearing seal a bit more. At the same time, the power of the All Heavens capture was added, suppressing the Shaoyang sword and the Taiyin sword. Feeling the increasing pressure, the 2 swords changed their way of fighting. The golden sword gleam suddenly disappeared, completely merging into the clouds. Changing from the previous lesser yang as the main and lunar as the support mode to the lunar sword acting as the main force to deal with Lin Feng's mana, while the lesser yang sword is hidden in the mist formed by the lunar sword, continuously using its own sword energy spirit energy to support it. The 2 swords no longer fought head-on, instead using the Taiyin sword's ever-changing sword intent to deal with Lin Feng, hoping to use softness to overcome hardness. Yes, Both swords are transformation-grade Dharma treasures, and they have reached the peak of transformation, only one step away from the Mahayana realm. Lin Feng had a plan. The remaining 4-6 meridian immortal swords of Mount Shu should be of the same level. Just like how cultivators cultivated and improved their realm, Dharma treasures also had their own realms. Dharma treasures had 4 realms, from low to high, namely spirit-bearing, transformation, Mahayana, and creation. The first realm was called spirit-bearing, which meant nurturing a primordial spirit, giving birth to a Dharma treasure's primordial spirit. Its consciousness would constantly grow, from a simple, chaotic thought to a complete independent thought and self-awareness. Furthermore, the primordial spirit could absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, constantly increasing its magic power, just like a human cultivating. However, spirit-bearing grade Dharma treasures could not form their own spiritual body, their consciousness completely dependent on the body of the Dharma treasure. Cultivation required the master's help, which would allow the treasure's power to grow rapidly. Self-cultivation would be very slow. If the magic treasure were to advance to the second stage of the incarnation realm, then the situation would be different. The magic treasure's original spirit would condense its own form and could temporarily leave the magic treasure's body. In this way, the magic treasure's original spirit could cultivate normally without the need of the master's sacrificial refining, and its strength could also increase rapidly. Generally speaking, the power of a magic treasure depended on the cultivation of the refiner. Spirit nurturing grade was equivalent to the refiner's first-tier primordial spirit incarnation stage strength, while transformation grade was equivalent to the second-tier primordial spirit reversion stage. Mahayana grade magic treasures were equivalent to the third-tier primordial spirit convergence stage. However, there was a problem, and that was that spirit nurturing grade and transformation grade treasures could not unleash their full power on their own. They had to be controlled by a primordial spirit powerhouse of the same level in order to unleash 100% of their power. In the battle before the opening ceremony of the Sand Continent City, Pang Jie had wielded the hexagonal sword of the Taishu Temple. Because Pang Jie had not attained the nascent divinity, the hexagonal sword had not been able to display its full power during the battle. Although it was far more powerful than ordinary Yuanian grade magic treasures, it was not the power that a magic treasure should have. If it had been in the hands of Yan Mingyue, who had attained the primordial spirit stage back then, the power of the hexagonal sword would have been equivalent to that of a first-tier primordial spirit stage powerhouse. By the same logic, during the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, the Yu family's patriarch, Lord Xianming Yu Xintao, had wielded the Xianming treasure book, the Yu family heirloom, to fight against Lin Feng. The Xianming treasure book was a transformation-grade magic treasure, but because Yu Xintao was only at the first-tier primordial spirit incarnation stage and had yet to attain the void reversion stage, the power that the Xianming treasure book could unleash was only at the spirit-nurturing grade. During the Desolate Sea Assembly, the great Qin dynasty's Prince Anliang, Shi Zongyue, had wielded the transformation-grade magic treasure, the Hidden Dragon Kettle, with his second-tier primordial spirit reversion stage cultivation. At the moment, the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords that Lin Feng was wielding were both transformation-grade magic treasures. Moreover, they were both at the peak of the transformation grade. They were only a step away from reaching the next level. However, such a short distance was like the distance between heaven and earth. If no one wielded them, they would not be able to unleash their full power. Magic treasures needed to advance to the third-tier realm, the Mahayana grade. Only then would the primordial spirit be fully developed. It would then be able to separate from the body and control the body independently. It would be able to unleash its full power independently and do as it pleased. The combat power of a Mahayana-grade magic treasure was completely equivalent to that of a third-tier primordial spirit incarnation stage almighty expert. At this stage, the magic treasure's primordial spirit could even choose to transcend the tribulation and reincarnate as a real living being. It would be born and grow, becoming a truly independent, brand new life in the vast thousand domains. The primordial spirit transcended the tribulation and reincarnated, severing the connection between it and the original owner of the sacrificial vessel. However, the primordial spirit that transcended the tribulation and reincarnated would also completely sever the connection between it and the body of the magic treasure, forever losing the chance to become a creation treasure. After reincarnation, everything was unknown. Although it was much easier to cultivate the primordial spirit of a magic treasure compared to ordinary living beings, it was completely unknown whether it could become a primordial spirit and ascend to the realm of carefree immortality. Therefore, generally speaking, the primordial spirit of a magic treasure would not take the initiative to reincarnate. A magic treasure that had lost its origin spirit had a certain chance of giving birth to a new origin spirit. It wasn't a replication. The relationship between a new magic treasure's origin spirit and the original origin spirit was similar to that of a child and a parent. As for the fourth realm of magic treasures, which was also the highest realm, the creation realm, it was much more mysterious. In the entire history of the heaven primal world, only a few creation treasures had appeared. When a Dharma treasure advanced to the creation realm, its origin spirit would lose its previous form. Instead, it would gradually transform into an existence that resembled the will of the creation realm and would not appear often. Regarding the treasure of creation, the Buddhist Great Lain Temple had proposed a concept in the past. It was known as the Nirvana Talisman, implying that the sea of bitterness was boundless. With the Nirvana Talisman, people could cross the sea of bitterness and reach the shore. Between life and death, there was great terror. Without becoming a primordial spirit, one's lifespan was limited. There would come a day when one would reach the end. When humans achieved the primordial soul realm and demons cultivated the immortal demon soul, they could live as long as the heavens and earth. Naturally, their lifespans were almost infinite. As long as the heavens and earth were not destroyed, they would not die. But what if this part of the world, this part of the vast thousand worlds, was completely destroyed? For a primordial spirit powerhouse, other than being killed by external forces, the only natural way to die was to follow the world to the nirvana. The nirvana of heaven and earth was a greater terror than life and death. Those who lived as long as the heavens and earth would naturally reach the end of their lifespans as well. When the nest was overturned, there would be no eggs left intact. Birth, old age, sickness, death, success, failure, and emptiness. Creation was a cycle between birth and death. A place of creation would open up, develop, and eventually decline until it was destroyed, returning to nothingness. Then, it would be reborn from nothingness. And according to legend, the treasure of creation was a supreme treasure that had the hope of resisting the nirvana of heaven and earth. It helped people traverse countless eras and break through the nirvana of heaven and earth to walk towards a new life. However, the treasure of creation rarely appeared in the world. In the great heaven primordial world, it had gradually become a legendary existence. It was extremely difficult for an artifact to become a treasure of creation. In the history of the great heaven primordial world, the treasures of creation that were recorded in the history of the great heaven primordial world all required a certain amount of luck in order to cross the threshold that was like a natural chasm. This natural chasm was not only difficult to refine, but also almost insurmountable in terms of power. However, among the three grades of spirit conception, transformation, and Mahayana, there were existences that were inferior to the superior ones. Between different artifacts, there were also differences in strength. There were many factors that determined which was superior, such as the level of the refiner's cultivation, the quality of the Taoist techniques that the refiner cultivated, the quality of the materials and refinement conditions, and so on. Apart from these conditions, there was also the factor of luck. Some artifacts, although only at the spirit conception level, could be stronger than transformation level artifacts, and could even challenge Mahayana artifacts. This was similar to how some cultivators could fight above their level because of their powerful dharmic powers, or because of their extraordinary talent. For example, Lin Feng's enlightened artifact, the Bell of Creation, had now refined the first manifestation, known as the Life Creation Gate. At this moment, it was a spirit conception level artifact and had just developed a spiritual consciousness. However, it was still like a baby and needed to continue nurturing and growing. However, although it was only at the spirit conception level, Lin Feng already had a rough estimate of the power of the Life Creation Gate. It was far superior to ordinary spirit conception artifacts. And the two swords of Shaoyang and Taiyin that Lin Feng was currently messing around with were also the cream of the crop among the magic treasures of the incarnation level. Furthermore, they had both reached the peak of the incarnation level and were only one step away from the Mahayana realm. As swords, they were sharp and powerful. If they were controlled by a second or third tier essence soul realm expert and unleashed their full power, they could even fight against a Mahayana artifact. However, due to the inherent weakness of transformation level artifacts, they could not unleash their full power. It was effortless for Lin Feng to suppress them. Facing the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords that were trying to escape, Lin Feng smiled slightly. Surging dermic powers rushed into the small world of heavens and directly turned into two purple hands. One hand grabbed the cloud mist that the Taiyin sword had transformed into, while the other hand slapped. A golden light was shaken out of the cloud mist. It was the Shaoyang sword. The Shaoyang sword turned back into a giant sword that was 10 feet long and had no edge. Under the suppression of Lin Feng's dermic powers, the Taiyin sword also turned back into its original form. The two swords were grabbed by Lin Feng. The huge power made them tremble continuously, but they could not escape. 10,000 years of hard work will be wasted in a day. I don't want that. You two should respect yourselves. Lin Feng said lightly, I don't covet the two of you to work for me, Xianmen Tianzong. However, if you want to cause trouble, I don't mind shattering your primordial spirits. The Taiyin sword was the first to calm down. A cold thought came from the blade. Alright, I'll wait to see you perish under my Shushan sword. On the other hand, the Shaoyang sword refused to give in even though its attitude was more peaceful at the beginning. It persisted in resisting. The Taiyin sword sent a message to him. If you perish here, the Shaoyang sword lineage will be greatly weakened. My Shushan 6 Meridian's heavenly immortal sword formation will also collapse. Keep yourself alive. When he comes to Shushan to seek revenge from the Xianmen sect's master, we can cooperate with him from the inside. Chapter 491. Unlike the lunar sword, the Shaoyang sword remained silent, but its confrontation with Lin Feng did not stop. Instead, it intensified. A person who was usually peaceful would appear especially stubborn in certain areas. In a sense, you are no different from a real human. Lin Feng laughed inwardly. A pity that stubbornness is useless against me. If you were a Mahayana-grade Dharma treasure, you might be able to cause a few waves. But an ownerless Dharma treasure better not jump around. Without even looking, Lin Feng opened his left hand and released another wave of spiritual power. It condensed into a huge purple hand that grabbed the Shaoyang sword and gripped it tightly. The golden sword light that had been flickering on the sword was instantly extinguished. The Shaoyang sword let out a piercing sound that made one's teeth ache, as if it was wailing. Lin Feng said indifferently, I will not make things difficult for you. Just stay put. The Shaoyang sword was completely restrained by Lin Feng's spiritual power and could not break free. Although the sword's spirit still transmitted an unyielding will, it could only helplessly be suppressed by Lin Feng. On the other side, the lunar sword was also suppressed by Lin Feng. The two swords were sent into the Black Heavens Time Light Cave by Lin Feng, and they were suppressed under the huge sword case along with the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Sage. The huge sword case vibrated, and a terrifying aura spread out, causing the Shaoyang sword and the lunar sword to tremble. They were both swords that had given birth to primordial spirits. They had a deeper understanding of the power of the peerless sword sealed within the sword case. They could clearly sense how terrifying it was. After putting away the two Dharma treasures, Lin Feng thought for a moment. Yes, I've made a mortal enemy of the Shushan sword sect this time. Almost all the Shushan second-tier primordial spirit realm cultivators have been heavily injured by me. Without the Shaoyang and lunar swords, the power of the 6 Meridian heavenly sword formation has been greatly reduced. The overall strength of the Shushan sword sect has been damaged, and they should be in a defensive state to prevent others from taking advantage of the situation. Logically speaking, the Mount Shu sword sect should not take the initiative to attack at this moment, but it is hard to guarantee that Mount Shu is used to being arrogant and will take the risk out of desperation. Lin Feng thought to himself, little Lin and little Qing are alone outside now. Perhaps they will become the targets of Mount Shu's sword sex revenge. In fact, purposely placing Wang Lin and Yang Qing outside and making them the target of the enemy's attack, then Lin Feng would make preparations in advance and make arrangements. That would be the most advantageous choice. It was very likely that he would launch a beautiful ambush and lure out the hidden enemies and kill them. However, Lin Feng did not intend to do so. After thinking for a while, he decided to summon Wang Lin and Yang Qing back to the mountain. As for Wang Lin's parents, Lin Feng also prepared to give special permission to Wang Lin to bring them back to the mountain. The same situation also applied to the Xiao family in Wuzhou City. If Xiao Yan had people he could not let go of, he could also bring them back to the mountain. When the time came, it would be fine to settle them in their own cave abodes. Although the great Qin dynasty had sent people to watch over them in the dark, under the situation where Mount Shu and Xianmen Tianzong were at odds, they most likely would not make such a strong enemy like the great Qin dynasty. However, it was hard to guarantee that there would be people who only seek temporary pleasure. Lin Feng was not interested in taking the risk. Thinking to this point, Lin Feng touched the space between his eyebrows. Bright flames rushed out and landed in front of him, turning into the image of a giant. It was the flame dragon heavenly armor. Under the control of Lin Feng's will, the flame dragon heavenly armor separated. The war god clone flew out from within and reappeared in the world. The violent blood energy was like the scorching sun across the sky, making one's heart palpitate. The war god clone was created by the system. Its cultivation level was automatically raised to the same level as Lin Feng himself. The degree of closeness could be said to have surpassed that of the clone. It was like Lin Feng's second self. At this moment, the strength of the war god clone had already reached the peak of the first-tier primordial soul adept. Among the adepts of the same tier that Lin Feng had seen, perhaps only Zhu Hongguo, who was at the first-tier primordial soul, was qualified to exchange blows with the war god clone. Like Prince Wuxian and Prince Yuxian of the Northern Militant faction, they were completely no match for the war god clone. Now, the war god clone could even fight against a second-tier primordial soul adept. As for the Iron Tree clone, it was still at the early Yuanying stage. It still needed to continue cultivating. Now that Lin Feng had attained the primordial soul stage, it was no longer difficult for him to refine the flame dragon heavenly armor. Hence, there was no need for the war god clone to continue staying in the flame dragon heavenly armor. After the war god clone came out, Lin Feng's main body drew a line with his hand and tore open a crack in the void. The war god clone traversed the endless space and headed towards Wang Lin's hometown, the southern border of the great Qin dynasty. Although martial adepts had strong battle strength, because they did not abandon their physical bodies, they were much slower than primordial soul incarnations in long-distance travel. Although they were faster in short-distance sprints and could also tear open space to escape, they were much slower than primordial soul incarnations. There were pros and cons. Lin Feng's main body used his dermic powers to send the war god clone on a journey so that it could reach its destination as soon as possible. Lin Feng's main body tore open the void and flew. When he felt that he was about to reach his destination, he suddenly felt a severe distortion in the space. Lin Feng frowned and said, "This feeling, is it because the space barrier of the divine land is broken and connected to the void battlefield?" The void battlefield was a strange space that hung alone in the sky. It was vast and filled with turbulent space currents and void storms. It was extremely dangerous. Cultivators below the golden elixir period would definitely die if they entered. Even cultivators in the golden elixir period would have a slim chance of survival. Normally, only cultivators in the Yuanying and primordial soul stages would enter, but it was also very dangerous. Just the number of primordial soul stage experts who had died in the void battlefield was unknown. Lin Feng tore open the space and arrived at Wang Lin's hometown. As soon as he arrived, he immediately saw a huge hole in the sky that was constantly twisting, as if it was a black hole that was going to devour everything. However, the boundless world of the divine land was constantly repairing and stabilizing itself. The hole in the space barrier was gradually mended and became smaller and smaller. It wouldn't take long before it disappeared. Lin Feng scanned with his divine sense and his face instantly turned ugly. This was because he realized that he couldn't feel the spiritual power aura of Wang Lin and Yang Qing. Not only their own spiritual power aura, but even the space talisman that Lin Feng left for them couldn't be felt. There were only two possibilities for such a situation to occur. One was that an expert with a higher cultivation than Lin Feng had used a great magical power to cut off the connection between Lin Feng and them. The other possibility was that Wang Lin and Yang Qing had entered the void battlefield. Lin Feng took a deep breath and reminded himself to stay calm. Previously, he thought that the Shi clan's life lantern was a very good idea, so he made some himself. Wang Lin and Yang Qing's life lantern were fine. At this moment, their lives shouldn't be in danger. Looking up at the space crack in the sky, Lin Feng didn't hesitate to fly up. The closer he got to the space crack, Lin Feng suddenly felt that the spiritual power imprint that he left on Yang Qing's body was becoming clearer. Lin Feng carefully searched with his divine sense and immediately found a green light at the edge of the space crack. It was already on the other side of the void. After the space crack closed, it would most likely be left in the void battlefield. It was a Fei Lian light shadow. However, at this moment, it was struggling to resist the huge force of the space distortion. It looked like it was on the verge of breaking. Inside the green Fei Lian light shadow, there was a figure. It was Lin Feng's fifth disciple, Yang Qing. At this moment, he was gritting his teeth and pouring all his spiritual power into a jade talisman in his hand. He was trying to drive the Fei Lian light shadow to break out of the restraint of the space distortion and return to the divine land. Unfortunately, Yang Qing hadn't formed the golden elixir yet. He couldn't use the full power of this Yuanying stage magic item. He could only barely hold on. Seeing that the space crack was getting smaller and smaller and was about to close, Yang Qing's eyes were filled with despair. He looked down at the jade talisman in his hand and said, "No. I can't give up. Even if I can't go back myself, I have to send them back." Right at that moment, a silhouette suddenly appeared in front of the Fei Lian silhouette. The silhouette's strength was immense, and it reached out to grab the Fei Lian silhouette. Although the silhouette's hand was not large, it was powerful enough to instantly drag the Fei Lian silhouette back from the other side of the rift. "Master!" Yang Qing saw the person who came and was instantly surprised. Lin Feng brought Yang Qing back to the boundless world of the divine land. After landing on the ground, Lin Feng asked in a deep voice, "Little Qing, what happened?" Yang Qing calmed down and quickly replied, "It was a late Yuanying old monster looking for trouble. Third senior brother brought me to fight with him. In the process of fighting, we accidentally opened up a void passage." "Someone from the Mount Shu sword sect?" "No." Yang Qing shook his head. Yang Qing shook her head and said, "It seemed to be a demonic cultivator. 10 days ago, a demonic cultivator from the Golden Elixir period suddenly appeared nearby. He collected tens of thousands of souls to cultivate his demonic arts and targeted Third Senior Brother's hometown." "So Third Senior Brother killed him?" Lin Feng nodded slightly. What happened in front of him was completely accidental. In other words, it was Wang Lin's destined son of heaven's aura that automatically attracted him. He cried and shouted and stuck to him, begging for abuse and education. In the end, behind that Golden Elixir period demonic cultivator stood a late Yuanying old monster who came to seek revenge. This person was extremely vicious and actually wanted to slaughter Third Senior Brother's entire family. He even wanted to refine all of them into Yin souls and not let them reincarnate. Hearing Yang Qing say this, Lin Feng's heart thumped. Fuck. God's cursed star. Although he teased Wang Lin for having a face like a god's cursed star, it was definitely a tragic thing for his relatives to suffer misfortune, especially his parents. Lin Feng did not want Wang Lin to experience the endless sorrow of his flesh and blood being separated and the death of his loved ones. Even if it affected Wang Lin's growth and made his path to becoming the destined son of heaven return to mediocrity, Lin Feng did not want him to really walk the path of a god's cursed star. He believed that Wang Lin himself would definitely want his parents to be safe forever. Little Lin's family. Lin Feng's eyes stared at Yang Qing. Yang Qing took out a jade slip and said, "That old monster came too fiercely. Some of Third's senior brother's clansmen were killed. Third's senior brother and I only had time to save his parents and some others. Phew, a great fortune in misfortune." Lin Feng let out a long breath and then looked at Yang Qing with dissatisfaction. "Brat, don't take such a big breath." Yang Qing's face was full of worry, but, in order to protect his parents, Third's senior brother fell into the depths of the void crack with that old monster. Chapter 492. Even though Wang Lin had already formed the golden elixir, and with the help of the underworld pearl and the cloud elephant seal, he could still fight against the Yuanying stage old monsters. However, the power of the heavenly law's embodiment of earth in the later stages of the Yuanying stage was not something that could be compared to. If not for the fact that they had accidentally broken through the world barrier and everyone had been dragged into the void battlefield, Wang Lin and Yang Qing would not have been able to get away with it. If Yang Qing could also form the golden elixir, they might be able to protect themselves in a 2 versus 1 battle. Of course, if they did not break through the world barrier and were trapped in the void battlefield, Wang Lin and Yang Qing could immediately contact Lin Feng. Not to mention the god of war doppelganger, even the Tai Shu doppelganger could easily kill them. At this moment, Wang Lin was trapped in the depths of the crack in the void. In other words, he was already deep in the void battlefield. When it came to the dangerous places of the heaven primordial world, the void battlefield was ranked at the top. Even if a primordial spirit realm expert entered it, it would be difficult to guarantee their safety. However, the void battlefield contained many rare cultivation resources of the heaven primordial world. Among them, there was no lack of precious natural treasures. Therefore, even though there was great danger, it attracted countless experts to search for treasures. Shi Tianhao's grandfather had disappeared in the void battlefield. His parents went to search for him and left him at Shi Tianyi's house, which led to Shi Tianhao's disaster. It was even to the extent that up until now, his grandfather and parents were still lost in the void battlefield without any news from them. Fortunately, the Shi clan had left behind their life lamps, and the flames of their life lamps had never been extinguished, so it meant that they were at least safe and sound. The biggest problem of the void battlefield was that it was easy to enter but difficult to leave. Even a primordial spirit realm expert could easily get lost in the void battlefield. To come out, other than mastering the mysteries of space, one also needed a bit of luck. This was because the void turbulence was completely chaotic and disorderly. Even if it was the current Lin Feng, or the head of the Mount Shu sword sect, Xian Longsheng, or the head of the Taishu temple, Yan Nanlai, they could guarantee their own safety after entering the void battlefield, but if they wanted to find someone they were separated from and bring them out, the difficulty was almost limitless. Lin Feng took the jade scroll from Yang Qing and scanned it with his consciousness. He found that there was a small space created with spiritual power that could accommodate many people. Among them, there was a middle-aged couple leaning against each other, and they were particularly eye-catching. Their facial features were at least 70% similar to Wang Lin's, and at this moment, their faces were filled with terror. This was because they had personally witnessed Wang Lin slaughtering thousands of people in an instant and then refining their souls and imprisoning them. Their eyes were filled with worry. They were worried about their son, Wang Lin and Lin. Although they had heard that their son's cultivation, they heard that Lin had a cultivation and was almost an immortal Dao Lin Feng immortal, Wang had not revealed himself. Other than Wang Lin's parents, the others had a lot more complicated feelings. Some were afraid, some were angry, and there were all kinds of emotions. It's all your Wang Lin's fault for causing such a disaster. Some couldn't hold back and shouted at Wang Lin's parents. That old immortal said that it was because Wang Lin killed his grandson that he wanted to exterminate our entire clan to avenge him. A middle-aged man beside Wang Lin's parents felt it was unfair and snorted, "You say it so easily. If not for Wang Lin and his junior brother, the demon who came at the beginning would have killed all of us. Did you forget how sixth uncle's family died? It wasn't your family that died, so how can you say such sarcastic words here? The person at the beginning choked and felt a little embarrassed. He shouted in exasperation, I am also sad that sixth uncle's family was killed, but what could we do? Wang Lin could have just caught that person and taught him a lesson before letting him go. But he wanted to be happy and killed that person, and now he has caused an even bigger disaster. The middle-aged man didn't give in. Wang Lin was avenging sixth uncle and the others. If I had to say, he was killed well. If we let that person go, how can we comfort sixth uncle's soul in heaven? If we let him go, that person will definitely come for revenge. At that time, more people will be killed. Maybe you will be the one who died. How can you still shout so happily now? Both sides had their supporters, and the people in the jade slips argued endlessly. When Wang Lin's parents heard people slandering their son, they were angry, but they were more worried about Wang Lin's safety. Lin Feng looked at the couple, looked at those people who stood up for Wang Lin and Yang Qing, and sighed in his heart. I wonder what their original fate would be. Wang Lin's personality was emotional, but he was also silent and introverted. The words, heavenly cursed lone star, were practically engraved on his face. Lin Feng couldn't help but guess that Wang Lin's path to becoming the son of heaven would probably be a path that was extremely emotional but always unobtainable. Loss and gain were the main themes in his life. What he gained was what he wanted, but what he lost would probably hurt him even more. Taking back what he had lost was perhaps the strongest motivation for Wang Lin to move forward. In order to achieve this goal, he pushed himself to overcome all obstacles and finally set foot on the peak. Did I change Wang Lin's fate? Many thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. If I didn't appear, what would Wang Lin's fate be now? The innate weakness of his innate talent caused Wang Lin to be destined to be ordinary at the beginning of his path of cultivation. The exquisite Tao techniques of the heavenly virtue scripture, the heaven spirit replenishing pill, the divine stone spirit platform, the mysterious heavenly treasure leaf, the heaven mending vine, the heaven connecting pill, and the mysterious heavenly time light grotto heaven to accelerate time, all of these worked together, and Wang Lin's own hard work, allowing him to form the golden elixir within 100 years. Less than 3 years had passed in the outside world, and Wang Lin had returned with a golden elixir period cultivation. However, it was unknown how much hard work, resources, and time Lin Feng and his disciple had put in. If Wang Lin's original path of life was to join a small or medium-sized sect like the Hengyu sect and slowly polish himself, what kind of scene would he be 3 years later? Perhaps there was no need for that late-stage Yuanying old monster to make a move. That golden elixir period demonic cultivator who came previously would have slaughtered his clan. Or perhaps Wang Lin had offended someone outside, and they could not find him in a short time, so they came to vent their anger on his parents and clan. Then, Wang Lin's little universe would explode after receiving the news, and he would officially embark on the path of destiny. He would cultivate hard, and after achieving great success, he would find his enemy to take revenge. This was probably the original direction of the script. But now, everything had changed. Even if that late-stage Yuanying old monster personally took action, Wang Lin still managed to protect his parents' clan. From an emotional point of view, this was naturally something that Lin Feng was happy to see. However, with such a huge reversal of fate, could Wang Lin still be the original Wang Lin? Could his path of being the son of heaven still continue? This time, Wang Lin's parents had escaped a calamity. In the future, would Wang Lin's fate of being the inborn lone star come into effect again? Everything had become unknown. Just like how Wang Lin had used all his strength to protect his parents, he himself had disappeared and was lost in the void battlefield. For a core formation cultivator, that place was a perilous place with only a slim chance of survival. Not to mention that there was a late nascent soul cultivator who wanted to kill him. Although the spatial turbulence was chaotic and unpredictable, most people who entered together wouldn't be too far away from each other in the beginning. Frankly speaking, Wang Lin's parents were not dead. Lin Feng was happy for Wang Lin. However, as for Wang Lin's own safety, Lin Feng was a little worried. Originally, Lin Feng was not very worried about the safety of Son of Heaven like Wang Lin and Xiao Yan. These people were people who were not afraid of getting into trouble. Son of Heaven, the template of a protagonist, if this path of life was smooth and there were fewer trials and tribulations, they would not even be able to greet others when they went out. Turning danger into safety was common. Misfortune and fortune depended on each other. The truth was that it was scary but not dangerous. A dead protagonist was not a protagonist, but a cameo, except at the end of the play. However, now that there was a slight deviation in Wang Lin's path of destiny, Lin Feng was not so confident anymore. Thinking of this, Lin Feng sighed, "Forget it, I'll just make a trip. At the same time, I can also visit Tianhao's grandfather and parents." He returned the jade scroll to Yang Qing and said indifferently, "In the jade scroll, bring those who speak up for your third senior brother and his parents back to the mountain and settle them in Fanlin-ju. As for those who don't know what's good for them, just leave them in Sand Continent City. When your third senior brother comes back, let him deal with them himself." As he said this, Lin Feng broke the void and sent Yang Qing in. The main body on Jade Jing Mountain cast a spell to guide Yang Qing back to the mountain. At this moment, the space in the distance split open and two Yuanying cultivators walked out. When they saw Lin Feng, they were shocked. "Is this the master of Xian Men?" Lin Feng glanced at him. "Are you a cultivator from the Great Qin dynasty?" One of the Yuanying cultivators nodded. "I received news that there was a late-stage Yuanying demonic cultivator who sacrificed living souls to create chaos and fought with your sect's disciple here. The cultivators from the Great Qin dynasty who stayed here were also killed by this evil person. We specially rushed over to deal with it." Lin Feng nodded and looked at the crack in the barrier that was getting smaller and smaller. "My disciple Wang Lin fought with him and accidentally opened a passage to the void battlefield. The two of them went in together. You just have to reply truthfully about this matter. I also feel sorry that the cultivators of the Great Qin dynasty were killed." The two Yuanying cultivators hurriedly said that they didn't dare. "This is the territory of the Great Qin dynasty. The demonic cultivator used evil methods to refine living souls and killed the people of the Great Qin dynasty. We cultivators of the Great Qin dynasty are responsible for this." Lin Feng's body flew up, flying towards the space barrier that was about to close up. "I'll leave the aftermath of this to you guys. After investigating the background of that demonic cultivator, if there are any accomplices, inform my Xian Gate Sky sect." Although his voice was calm, the hearts of the two Yuanying cultivators turned cold at the same time. They knew that Lin Feng was angry. If that old monster was a lone cultivator, it would be fine. If there was another force behind him, he would probably be in big trouble. Now, the well-informed people in the Divine Land already knew that when the master of Xian Men was angry, even a colossus like the Shu Mountain Sword sect would have to think twice and not dare to be as unbridled as before. After Lin Feng's God of War clone flew into the sky, he entered the spatial crack without hesitation and entered the void battlefield along with the void turbulence. Chapter 493. Yang Qing was sent back to Yujing Mountain, where Lin Feng's main body was waiting for him. "Master, third senior brother he." Yang Qing appeared to be deeply worried. Lin Feng quietly said, "Entering deep into the void battlefield, this is your third senior brother's tribulation, but at the same time it is also an opportunity for him." Yang Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. He had heard of the dangers of the void battlefield. It was infamous in the entire heaven primal world. Lin Feng said, "Just in case, I've also sent one of my clones into the void battlefield." Hearing this, Yang Qing repeatedly nodded her head. Lin Feng continued saying, "Now, tell me what happened in detail." "Yes, master." Yang Qing told the story from 10 days ago, when he and Wang Lin discovered that there were demonic cultivators causing trouble, until today, when they suddenly came to kill them. Wang Lin risked his life to save his parents' clan, but the world barrier unexpectedly broke. Everyone, including the Yuanying old monster, was sucked into the void turbulence. Yang Qing was not sucked into the void crack, but in order to save people, he had to bite the bullet and rush in. Wang Lin was entangled with the old monster, and in order to save Wang Lin's parents and clan, Yang Qing lost the chance to help Wang Lin. He could not even protect himself, and could only rely on the Yuanying magic tool to barely hold on. If not for Lin Feng's timely arrival, Yang Qing would have been in danger. I really could not help third senior brother at that time. I am sorry, master. Yang Qing lowered his head in disappointment. Lin Feng looked at him and shook his head slightly. No, you have done well enough. If little Lin was here now, he would also thank you for the choice you made at that time. Yang Qing felt a little better after receiving Lin Feng's praise and comfort, but he still felt it was difficult to let go. If my cultivation was stronger, maybe I could help third senior brother more. Lin Feng glanced at Yang Qing and nodded. Not bad, you have successfully broken through the bottleneck and condensed the pill cauldron. Back then, when he instructed Yang Qing to look for Wang Lin, he hoped that Yang Qing would cultivate together with Wang Lin and experience the tranquil state of mind, relieving the excessive psychological pressure. With a relaxed state of mind, Yang Qing's cultivation naturally flowed smoothly. She easily broke through her previous bottleneck, condensed her pill cauldron, and advanced to the late stage of foundation establishment. Under the inspection of Lin Feng's divine sense, he saw that there was a purple pill cauldron on top of Yang Qing's beer. This was the result of him cultivating the 8 trigrams Great Way scripture. And above the purple pill cauldron, there was an eye-catching phenomenon. The 2 colors, one green and one gold, formed a pattern that resembled a Taiji diagram and revolved continuously. The source of the green spiritual power was the lunar true water, while the source of the golden spiritual power was the solar true fire. Extreme yin and extreme yang, the 2 extremes of yin and yang, perfectly intertwined yet clearly separated, achieving an absolute balance. This was the reason why Yang Qing's constitution was as high as 9 points. This person had a 1 in a million constitution with a perfect balance of yin and yang, which coincided with the innate principle of the Great Way. Yin and yang complemented each other, and it was natural. Song Qingyuan and Dao Yuding of the Celestial Pool sect had an excess of true yin in his primordial yang, while the other had an excess of true yang in her primordial yin. However, they had not achieved a perfect balance of yin and yang, and there was a slight deviation. Nevertheless, their talents were already extremely outstanding, and they were treated as treasures by the Celestial Pool sect. The reason why Chao Wei and the Celestial Pool sect intended to pair the 2 of them as cultivation partners was that they hoped that after the 2 of them got married, they would achieve a perfect balance of yin and yang. However, Yang Qing had a perfect balance of yin and yang, and it was innate, so he was superior. With such a constitution, no matter what kind of Dao technique he cultivated, he would get twice the result with half the effort. If the Celestial Pool sect's Arctic Flaming Sun mystic art was a Dao technique that was a balance of yin and yang, and it was a fusion of 2 opposing extremes, he would have a unique advantage. It was not an exaggeration to say that Yang Qing's constitution was the most perfect for cultivating a Dao technique like the Arctic Flaming Sun mystic art. If he were to become a disciple of the Celestial Pool sect, the status of Song Qingyuan and Dao Yuding would immediately be lowered, and they could only watch as he became the most favored and valued seedling of the Celestial Pool sect. After all, in the entire history of the Celestial Pool sect, there were only a few disciples with such talents. Those who succeeded were all people who left their names in the history books, and they were people who led the Celestial Pool sect by leaps and bounds. After Lin Feng realized this, he considered the problem of teaching in accordance with Yang Qing's aptitude. Yang Qing had the lunar true water, and he built his foundation with the lunar true solution, and even built his beer. Although he later changed to the 8 trigrams Universal Great Way scripture, he still had a good understanding of the lunar true solution. After Lin Feng deduced the Great Sun Brilliant Heaven scripture, he passed this Dao technique to Yang Qing. He then guided Yang Qing to use the 8 trigrams Universal Great Way scripture as his foundation, and on this foundation, he comprehended the Great Sun Brilliant Heaven scripture and the Lunar True solution at the same time. Lin Feng gave Yang Qing the vermilion flame ice flower, which he obtained from the Desolate Sea Assembly. At the same time, he also gave him some petals of the bipolar heavenly flower. This was all to help Yang Qing comprehend the principle of the fusion of ice and fire, yin and yang. These two fundamentally opposing Tao techniques were originally at odds with each other. However, with the 8 trigrams Universal Great Way scripture as his foundation, and Yang Qing's physique that was completely balanced with yin and yang, he finally achieved results after a period of cultivation. Other than his original lunar true water, Yang Qing also cultivated the supernatural power of the solar true fire, and he figured out the concept of the two opposites but also the fusion of yin and yang. Finally, he fused water and fire, and walked his own path, forming an elixir cauldron. Previously, when the disciples tried to figure out their own Tao technique, Yang Qing obtained it. It was called the Yin-Yang Tao Codex. It was the summary and induction of this concept. At that time, it had already taken shape. Now that Yang Qing had successfully formed an elixir cauldron, he had perfected this Tao technique one step further. Seeing that Lin Feng was testing his cultivation, Yang Qing hurriedly said, "Disciple will definitely continue to cultivate hard and strive to form his gold core as soon as possible." Hearing Yang Qing say this, Lin Feng smiled and nodded his head. "That's right, little Qing, you need this kind of drive. Remember Master's words, you're very strong, much stronger than you imagine. Disciples' achievements today are all thanks to Master's teachings." Yang Qing bowed solemnly. Lin Feng said, "All right, you can go now. Help your third senior martial brother's family settle down. If there's anything, you can look for the outer sanctum steward, Dao Jiqiang, to help you. Little Lin will definitely come back." Lin Feng said lightly, "His parents and relatives are here. Master and you are here. Even if he goes to hell, little Lin will break through all the obstacles and return to the world. Master believes that he has the ability to do this." Yang Qing nodded hard. "Yes, third senior martial brother's character is indomitable and his will is extremely strong. Disciple also believes that nothing can stump him." Lin Feng looked at Yang Qing's back as he left. After a long time, he sighed. Lin Feng firmly believed that Wang Lin would be able to return from the void battlefield. This was Lin Feng's hope for him. However, placing everything on an ethereal hope was not Lin Feng's style. Therefore, he had decided to send the god of war clone into the void battlefield. However, the space turbulence in the void battlefield was indeed difficult to deal with. Lin Feng cultivated the Tao Te Ching and had already come into contact with the power of space when he was only at the foundation establishment level. Regarding the mysteries of space, Lin Feng's comprehension far surpassed cultivators of the same level. This made him much more at ease in the void battlefield compared to other people. But to find Wang Lin, who was lost in the depths of the battlefield to who knows where, it was still beset with difficulties. Shi Tianhao's parents went deep into the void battlefield to search for his missing grandfather. They used a secret technique to sacrifice their cultivation and relied on the bloodline connection to search for him. They had more hope than others. However, there was still no news of him after such a long time. "I have to find him no matter how difficult it is. I can't just sit and wait." Lin Feng shook his head. He came down from the arcane treasure tree and saw a group of disciples still standing at the entrance of the disciples' abode. Not only the second-generation disciples, there were also Shi Tianhao, Zhu Yi, and their personal disciples, Su Yunsheng, and the others. Xiao Yan was not here. Lin Feng asked the recovered Buddhist monk Dade to bring Xiao Yan to Wuzhou City. Before this, he, Zhu Yi, and the others also witnessed the live broadcast that Lin Feng sent back on Jade Capital Mountain. The group of people watched with great satisfaction. Previously in the Cloudy Forest realm, Lin Feng had cut off the signal for some things, and everyone had been watching intermittently. But this time, it was a live broadcast of the entire process. Seeing how Lin Feng handled the heavy like it was light, and how his mystical abilities and dermic powers had utterly defeated the big shots of the Mount Shu sword sect, even breaking the 6 Meridian Immortal Heaven sword formation, everyone watched in a daze. When Lin Feng killed Exa and Longsheng's immortal Heaven Sword Monarch avatar and captured the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords, the second-generation disciples cheered in unison. In the Divine Land, standing at the peak of the human cultivation world, the Shu Mountain Sword Sect, the #1 sword holy land in the world, was beaten by their own patriarch until they could only flee. Seeing this scene, the Xianmen Tianzong disciples felt that their future was unprecedentedly bright. This battle not only increased Lin Feng's reputation worldwide, but it also further inspired the hearts of the people in his own sect, strengthening their unity and sense of honor. Even after the battle ended, they were unwilling to disperse for a long time. They gathered together and chatted excitedly. Until Yang Qing returned to the mountain and wanted to go to Mortal Forest residence, out of courtesy, they found Wang Lin's disciple, Li Xingfei, to lead the way. Everyone greeted Yang Qing together, and then they gradually calmed down. After Yang Qing briefly explained the situation, Zhu Yi and the others looked at each other with worried expressions, especially Shi Tianhao. Thinking about how his family was also lost in the void battlefield, he became even more worried. After arranging for the disciples to disperse, Zhu Yi's group came to greet Lin Feng. After knowing that Lin Feng had sent his god of war avatar into the void battlefield, Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others sighed in relief. Lin Feng looked at the tiny Shi Tianhao and slowly said, "This time, we entered the void battlefield to find little Lin, but also to find your parents and grandfather." Shi Tianhao's expression was no longer playful. He solemnly bowed towards Lin Feng, "Disciple thanks Master." The few of them were not as excited as the second-generation disciples. Witnessing Lin Feng's invincible prowess, they were happy but also felt pressured. The current Xianmen Tianzong was mainly supported by Lin Feng alone. When dealing with primordial spirit-level experts, most of the matters had to be handled by Lin Feng. Zhu Yi's and the others' current cultivation was not enough to stand out and hold up the facade. Shushan sect leader Exa and Longsheng is qualified for master to take action. If the few of us can become stronger, we won't have to trouble master to face those Shushan elders. Shi Tianhao, Zhu Yi, and Yu Hengyan looked at each other and saw the same expression in each other's eyes. We need to work harder and improve our cultivation to share master's burden. Lin Feng saw all of this and naturally knew what they were thinking. He also felt happy in his heart. At this moment, one of his voice transmission crystals suddenly shattered. Lin Feng swept it with his mana and found that the source was the girl who went to the great Zhou dynasty to look for Luo Qingguo, Jun Zining. Chapter 494. After Lin Feng received Jun Zining's voice transmission, he used his own mana to communicate. Jun Zining's voice came from the other side. "Senior, Junior Jun Zining has disturbed you." "It's okay." Lin Feng replied, "If there's anything, just speak your mind." Jun Zining lowered her voice slightly, "Senior, I found Xiao Wu. We are now temporarily staying at the great Zhou dynasty's crown prince's house." She said with some embarrassment, "Xiao Wu, she's sick and is now recuperating. After she recovers, I want to take her back to the mountain to seek medical treatment. I hope Senior will take pity on her." Lin Feng smiled slightly. Jun Zining's words were obviously insincere. She was trying to cover for her little sister. Luo Qingguo, that little lowly, was stubborn. It seemed that she had not come around yet. "This autumn, my disciple Zhu Yi will go to the great Zhou dynasty's Tianjing city for the examination." Lin Feng said lightly, "When the time comes, you can find him." Jun Zining quickly said, "Thank you, Senior. I will obey." She hesitated for a moment and smiled awkwardly, "Senior, during this period, if my family goes to look for me, please don't tell them. If they know where I am, they will definitely find Xiao Wu. Maybe they will send Xiao Wu back to the Luo family." Xiao Wu, she doesn't want to go back yet. There's a sentence that she didn't say out loud, but Lin Feng naturally understood the meaning behind her words. This little girl didn't want to go home either. However, Jun Zining was obviously thinking too much. Although Dao Master Lan Ting of Purple Cloud Path recognized her at the Kuanpeng hidden treasure, he only had a general understanding of the situation. After knowing that it was not the Jun family who actively contacted Xianmen Tianzong, he no longer paid attention to it. Although the Jun family in the ancient Yuan-Tian world was anxious, they had not been able to find Jun Zining. They knew that Jun Zining and Luo Qinggu were best friends, so they contacted the Luo family. However, Luo Qinggu and her sixth grandfather Luo Qi kept their promise to keep Jun Zining secret. He only revealed that Jun Zining was safe and sound, but kept his mouth shut about her exact whereabouts. Lin Feng said flatly, "I've said that it's fine for you to stay on the mountain, but I won't stop you if someone from your family or someone from the Purple Cloud Taoism comes to pick you up." Jun Zining smiled sheepishly and said, "Sorry for the trouble." Ending the call with Jun Zining, Lin Feng shook his head and laughed, putting the matter aside for the time being. He looked at Zhu Yi and smiled, "Little Yi, you've passed the top scorers examination this spring. This autumn, you'll have to go to Tianjin City to take the examination." Zhu Yi nodded. "Just as Master said." Shi Tianhao smiled and said, "Second senior brother, I've heard that it's an honor for scholars to pass the imperial examinations. Passing the top 3 grades is even more of an honor. Are you confident this time?" Zhu Yi smiled. "I'm confident that I can pass the top 3 grades, but it's hard to say whether I can win the imperial examinations and the imperial examinations consecutively. It depends on the examiner's standards and Emperor Liangpan's intentions. However, I understand the logic in my heart. I'm sure I'll write a good essay." Speaking of this, he looked at Lin Feng and said seriously, "Master, I'm preparing to go into seclusion for a period of time. I'll try to pass the trials of the Yin Wind before the fall quarter examinations and advance to the late stage of the Golden Elixir." Lin Feng looked calm. "Have you thought about it?" Among the disciples, Zhu Yi's cultivation was steady and orderly. It seemed like he did not show off his talents, but he was actually the most stable and well-prepared. Although he had just passed the trials of the Yin Fire at the Desolate Sea Assembly last year and advanced to the middle stage of the Golden Elixir, Zhu Yi had been cultivating silently during this period of time. His understanding of Tao techniques and supernatural powers had become more refined. He created the 8 trigrams Divine Evolution Golden Scripture and further understood the subtleties of Xianmen Tianzong's Tao techniques. After Lin Feng obtained the complete Dark Solitary Skeleton, he had comprehended the essence of the dark force within it and passed it on to Zhu Yi. Coupled with the true meaning of light from the Infinite Light Buddha scripture, Zhu Yi's Tao techniques continued to improve. In addition, with the vast amount of essence qi from the cloud forest tree as a material foundation, Zhu Yi's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Previously, Lin Feng had communicated with him about his cultivation. Zhu Yi already had the ability to pass the trials of the Yin Wind, but Zhu Yi was hesitant about whether he should pass the trials of the Yin Wind and advance to the late stage of the Golden Elixir. He had hoped that after the fall quarter examinations this year, his spiritual will would be refined again and then he would pass the trials of the Yin Wind. But now, Zhu Yi had changed his mind. Looking at Lin Feng, Zhu Yi answered, "I've thought about it. I'm not acting rashly, but I've made all the necessary preparations. There's no need to think too much. I'll just go with the flow, which is more suitable for cultivation." Shi Tianhao opened his mouth, but he felt a toothache when he recalled the 9 holes in his golden elixir. His golden elixir was in the 9th orifice of the Xiantian realm, so it would naturally expel the impurities in the golden elixir. So it was easy for him to pass the trials of Yin Wind, but it would be a little awkward for him. Lin Feng smiled, "Silly brat, you've already accumulated enough. As for the problem of your golden elixir, there's a high chance that you'll be able to resolve it. When you're ready, you can make your breakthrough to the late stage of the golden elixir. I still have to thank the cloud forest tree for that." Shi Tianhao smiled. Pursing his lips, Yu Hongyan's crimson eyes flickered with flames. "Master, I would like to challenge the core formation stage." Her cultivation had been progressing rapidly, but she didn't make her breakthrough to the golden elixir period in order to ensure her foundation was solid. If she was too impatient, there might be a deviation in her cultivation. If she couldn't form her violet core after forming the golden elixir, then it would severely restrict her cultivation in the future. But after a long period of cultivation, Yu Hongyan's foundation had become more solid, and she was confident about it. The time is ripe, so go ahead and do it. I will be staying on the mountain to protect the two of you. Lin Feng nodded his head with a smile, but you guys will have to overcome the bottleneck in your cultivation. Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and Yu Hongyan bowed together. We will follow Master's teachings. When the three of them entered the profound sky duration chamber, Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan just had to cultivate on their own. Lin Feng only needed to look after them from the side, but Shi Tianhao's situation was more unique. He had to undergo the Yin Wind tribulation to perfect his golden elixir, which was more difficult for Shi Tianhao's ninth orifice golden elixir. Tianhao, be careful and focus. Lin Feng gently clapped his hands and a strand of energy flew out, forming into a violet furnace in the air. A Taiji diagram appeared on his forehead and blazing golden flames flew out, forming into the Great Sun Sovereign Celestial Body. The Great Sun Sovereign Celestial Body sat in the air with its hands forming seals before its abdomen. The violet furnace flew out and landed on the Great Sun Sovereign's hands. Lin Feng flicked his finger and a large amount of blue blood appeared, falling into the violet furnace. It was the purest Kunpeng true blood, and it was extremely condensed, containing great power. It wasn't something that the Kunpeng bloodline that the Kunyu ancestral ancestor possessed could compare to. This was the precious blood that Lin Feng obtained from the ancient Kunpeng's corpse. It was the blood essence of a great demon that had reached the third stage of the undying demonic soul, the Unity Star Soul. When the blue blood essence fell into the violet furnace, a rumbling sound could be heard and a silhouette could be seen floating within. It was a fish when it sank, and a peng when it floated. With a wave of his hand, Lin Feng poured another drop of golden blood essence into the violet furnace. It was the coiling dragon blood that he obtained from the desolate ocean assembly. Aside from the coiling dragon blood, Lin Feng also threw the Brontosaurus's corpse and King Phalian's claws into the furnace. In an instant, wind and lightning surged. Tianhao. Lin Feng lightly shouted. The little Shi Tianhao answered, "Yes, master." He immediately flew up, drawing an arc in the air and jumping into the purple furnace. The Kunpeng true blood started to refine Shi Tianhao's body, his energy, and even his soul. The Xiantian ninth orifice's golden elixir started to absorb the Kunpeng true blood. Lin Feng opened his palm. Above his palm floated the heptagold flowing water stone, Tianheng cinnabar, Sun Yang essence stone and other items flew together, all entering the purple furnace. Those treasures fused with the Kunpeng true blood, turning into soul essences that were absorbed into Shi Tianhao's body along with the Kunpeng true blood. Lin Feng cut off a section of the heaven-mending vine and then placed it into the purple furnace. Under the nourishment of the Kunpeng true blood, this section of the heaven-mending vine rapidly grew. The lower half of the vine completely wrapped around Shi Tianhao's body. The sky-mending vine gradually lost its original appearance and turned into a green ribbon with spiritual energy being absorbed by Shi Tianhao. The spiritual energy refined the golden hepta flowing stone's essence and started to repair the Xiantian ninth orifice on the golden elixir. No matter if it was Lin Feng or Shi Tianhao himself, they were both paying close attention to the movements within. Their objective wasn't to completely block the Xiantian ninth orifice on Shi Tianhao's golden elixir. Even if they succeeded, Shi Tianhao's golden elixir would return to a mediocre state. Although it would still be a top-notch violet core, it would be a setback compared to the past. Not only did Lin Feng and his disciple have to overcome the Xiantian tribulation in the golden elixir, but they also had to preserve the uniqueness of Shi Tianhao's golden elixir. This was also the reason why they had to put in so much effort. Otherwise, a single sky-mending vine would be more than enough. Lin Feng has planned for such a long time. It is to help his little disciple's golden core undergo another transformation, solve the problem and go up a level. When facing difficulties, they couldn't take a detour, nor could they retreat. They had to find a way to surpass it. After the spirit energy of the heaven-mending vine started to take effect and the Kunpeng true blood became more and more active, Lin Feng took out the 9 lotus seeds of the earth flame lotus as well as the spirit herb 9 revolution ice orchid. These 2 items are treasures that he won from a bet with the sect master of the Tian Chi sect, Chao Wei, during the Desolate Sea Assembly. At that time, Lin Feng had a clear objective, which was to obtain those items for today. Aside from that, there was also the Yin Yang 9 spirit jade that he had obtained from the Kunpeng's treasury. All of those items were sent into the violet cauldron by Lin Feng. Under Lin Feng's guidance, Shi Tianhao carefully absorbed the spiritual energy into his body. After the spiritual energy fused together, it turned into 9 colorful rays that entered the Xiantian 9th orifice of the golden elixir. Chapter 495. 9 streams of light poured into the 9 orifices on Shi Tianhao's golden elixir and corresponded with each other. The light sealed Shi Tianhao's golden elixir's orifices, but it wasn't completely sealed. It was only a temporary fusion. Under the effect of the heaven-mend vine and Kunpeng true blood, a large amount of spiritual energy was poured into the golden elixir. Gradually, Shi Tianhao's golden elixir seemed to be coated with a layer of film. The 9 orifices on the golden elixir emitted a bright radiance. Lin Feng saw that Shi Tianhao's situation in the purple furnace had already gradually stabilized. He let out a sigh of relief in his heart. The first step is complete. Next, the little Shi Tianhao had to absorb and refine the spiritual energy himself in preparation for the final transformation. This would be a long and arduous process that could not be rushed, and could only depend on Shi Tianhao's patience to refine it. The final transformation would come along with the Yin Wind tribulation. As long as Shi Tianhao could overcome the tribulation, not only would his golden elixir reach perfection, but his spiritual energy would also rise to a new level. If he took this step well, it would be much smoother for him to form his nascent soul. Regarding Shi Tianhao forming his nascent soul, Lin Feng was still rather looking forward to it. According to the system's explanation, among the 4 talent potential values, bone innate talent is mainly useful before the nascent soul stage, especially during the Qi disciple stage and foundation building stage. It is definitely the talent value that has the greatest influence on a cultivator. There is no other. Most importantly, the level of aptitude would greatly affect a cultivator's spiritual platform and cauldron grade in the foundation establishment stage, and the grade of the cauldron would directly affect the formation of one's nascent soul in the future. It would be fine if the golden elixir formed a violet or vermilion core, but the possibility of forming a nascent soul would be completely cut off if the nascent soul was formed. After reaching the core formation stage, the influence of aptitude would start to decline. For Yuanying stage cultivators, aptitude would be negligible in their cultivation. There was only one exception. That was a child favored by the heavens with a maximum value of 10 for one's root bone. Even if one reached the primordial spirit realm and got rid of the mortal body, one's root bone with a maximum value would still be affected. Lin Feng was quite looking forward to it. If the system didn't make things up, then when Shi Tianhao formed his nascent soul, he might have special gains that others didn't have. Of course, if he wanted to form his nascent soul, he had to first make sure that the golden elixir was flawless. He couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Shi Tianhao was refining all kinds of treasures in the Kunpeng true blood, which was a process that consumed a lot of magic power. Even though his magic power was much greater than ordinary people's, if he continued for a long time, he would be exhausted. However, the cloud forest tree that belonged solely to him could provide him with sufficient spiritual energy and magic power. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shi Tianhao could absorb more and faster of the cloud forest tree's essence energy, and the efficiency would be higher than usual. With the support of sufficient spiritual energy, Shi Tianhao's magic power improved by leaps and bounds, and he was getting closer and closer to the tribulation of Yin Wind and the later stage of the golden elixir. Seeing that Shi Tianhao had stabilized, Lin Feng turned to look at Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. Both of them were also cultivating wholeheartedly. After Lin Feng observed the situation of the two, he gradually had an idea in his heart. Zhu Yi's mental state was very stable, and his emotions were stable. He had mastered the great Tao, and he had even entered the state of thoughtless tranquility. Thoughtless tranquility was the cultivation state that every cultivator dreamed of. The mind was in a state of chaos, and it was most in line with the true essence of the connate great Tao. In this state, cultivators would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort when cultivating Tao techniques, or comprehending magic power, and it would bring about a cultivation effect of traveling 1,000 miles in a day. Most cultivators would never be able to enter the state of thoughtless tranquility in their entire lives. Even many primordial spirit powerhouses had never experienced such an experience. Zhu Yi was cultivating, and this was also his first time entering the state of thoughtless tranquility. Looks like Xiaoyi has indeed accumulated a lot this time. Lin Feng nodded, and turned to look at Yu Hongyan on the other side. There, Yu Hongyan was also silently meditating, beginning to sprint towards the golden elixir period. Overall, Yu Hongyan's cultivation was also very smooth. However, she did not enter the state of thoughtless tranquility, and was just cultivating normally. Lin Feng took out a small emerald green jade pendant, and then used his magic power to create a small enclosed space, and placed Yu Hongyan inside. Yu Hongyan was startled. "Master." The moment she opened her mouth, her nose had already caught a faint fragrance that was almost imperceptible. Lin Feng smiled. "Cultivate with all your heart, and don't waste Master's mind-calming fragrance. The state of thoughtless tranquility is extremely precious." Very soon, Yu Hongyan realized that if she concentrated and resisted, then this fragrance would not affect her at all. However, once she let down her guard, under the effect of the fragrance, her mind would gradually enter a muddled state. The beginning of the world, the beginning of chaos. A mother giving birth to a baby was most suitable for this state of the beginning of chaos. Right now, Yu Hongyan felt as if she had returned to the time when she was a baby. Her mind was empty, and she was half awake. This is thoughtless tranquility. "Master." Yu Hongyan immediately calmed down, and all distracting thoughts were tossed to the back of her mind. She began to cultivate seriously. Lin Feng sensed for a moment, and realized that after Yu Hongyan entered the state of thoughtless tranquility, the efficiency of her cultivation of Tao techniques had indeed increased by another level. Unfortunately, he could clearly feel that she was even more enlightened when it came to the comprehension of Tao techniques. In the past, she might have needed to spend some effort to comprehend the obstacles, but now, it was as easy as walking on flat ground, and she easily resolved them. Moreover, she suddenly understood the hidden profoundness in some of the details that she usually did not notice. Lin Feng nodded his head in satisfaction. The effect is not bad." The fragrance that was stimulated by the mind-calming jade permeated the space created by Lin Feng's transcendence energy. Very soon, Lin Feng understood the movement within. There is a limit to the amount of fragrance. If the space is too large, the fragrance will become thin, and the effect will probably be reduced. Lin Feng understood. It can only be used by a few people at one time, and the duration, according to the current situation, it should be about 10 days. 10 days was neither long nor short. For martial cultivators, most of the time, seclusion could be measured in years. It was not rare for some primordial soul mighty figures to go into seclusion for thousands of years. 10 days was not a long time compared to the long cultivation time of a cultivator. But if it played a critical role and helped a cultivator break through a bottleneck in their own cultivation process, then 10 days' worth of effort was equivalent to 10 or even 100 years. Lin Feng weighed the mind-calming jade in his hand. It's the same as the heavenly sea golden bead. After using it once, it will enter a dormant period. The heavenly sea golden bead's dormancy period is 7 days, but I wonder how long this thing's dormancy period is. Seeing that his 3 disciples' cultivation was on the right track, and that there would not be any major changes in the short term, Lin Feng took the first step out of the mysterious heaven time light grotto heaven. He sat on a branch of the mysterious heaven treasure tree, and with a flip of his palm, a mass of purple gas appeared. Within the purple gas was the primordial sky dragon's corpse that Qin Emperor Stonefeather had given him. Even though it was already dead, the corpse still emitted a majestic power. It was 10,000 feet long and looked extremely majestic. There was even a dragon's might and auspicious clouds around it. Lin Feng took out his flame dragon heavenly armor. The armor had been dismantled by him previously and was in tatters. With a light clap of his palm, Lin Feng's dermic powers transformed into streams of light that infused into the primordial sky dragon's corpse. The sky dragon's corpse was extremely tough. Lin Feng did not wish to destroy it, but to refine it. Therefore, he was very patient as he slowly refined the dragon's body. This dragon belonged to the yellow dragon race of the primordial sky dragon race when it was alive. The yellow dragon did not have a strong physique like the refined armor black dragon, nor did it have the ability to shift between corporeal and incorporeal like the white jade dragon. However, the yellow dragon race produced more experts than the refined armor black dragon and the white jade dragon. The yellow dragon's innate bloodline divine power lay in its immense demonic power. It was as heavy as the central Wuji earth, just like the earth. It looked ordinary but was actually extremely powerful. The density of the yellow dragon's demonic power was similar to the mixed essence water divine power that human cultivators cultivated. Few cultivators of the same realm could match it in terms of the total amount of dermic powers. After some consideration, Lin Feng did not refine the yellow dragon's corpse into his clone. Instead, he disintegrated it and extracted the demonic power essence from the dragon flesh to refine the flame dragon heavenly armor. This time, Lin Feng wanted to completely refine the flame dragon heavenly armor into his own Dharma treasure. Majestic dragon roars sounded continuously as waves of dragon might spread. The yellow dragon's body was refined by Lin Feng, the refined armor black dragon's dragon scales, and the flame dragon's eye. Complemented by the Xiantian treasure tree's branches, leaves, and dragon tendons, it gradually transformed into an armor. Lin Feng's hands kept changing dermic powers as he injected waves after waves of dermic powers into the armor. Unlike the previous flame dragon heavenly armor, which was pieced together into 2 layers and had a huge protective mirror in front of the chest, it actually hid the red flame demon eyes that had yet to be fully refined. Now, this armor was truly one. The armor was still made of scales and was pitch black in color. There were 2 streams of air circling around the armor. One was earthy yellow while the other was fiery red. The 2 streams of air turned into dragon shadows and roared. Under the stimulation of Lin Feng's dermic powers, it was as if the 2 dead primordial heavenly dragons had come back to life. Combine. Lin Feng let out a low roar, his 2 hands joined together and 2 dragon shadows, one yellow and one red, poured into the armor together. The scales on the armor immediately shook violently, as if a divine dragon was shaking the armor. Its power was unstoppable. The black armor was plated with a layer of golden brilliance. Within the golden brilliance, one could vaguely see dazzling flames dancing. It's not just the fire dragon demon eyes. It's not appropriate to call it the flame dragon heavenly armor anymore. Lin Feng smiled. From today onwards, it shall be called the dragon god heavenly armor. Upon hearing this, the dragon god heavenly armor shook a little and released a breath of life. A brand new, independent life consciousness was born from it. That was the Dharma treasure spirit of the dragon god heavenly armor. However, it was still in a muddled state and needed time to grow. Refining a magic treasure was an incomparably long process. What it burned was time. Many magic treasures required hundreds or even thousands of years to refine and still might not be successful. Lin Feng had only completed the first step in refining the dragon god heavenly armor. There was still a long way to go. However, just now, Lin Feng could feel the power of the dragon god heavenly armor. It was far stronger than the flame dragon heavenly armor in the past. This satisfied Lin Feng. Strictly speaking, the flame dragon heavenly armor was just a fake Dharma treasure. However, its power could be passed off as the real one. Now, the dragon god heavenly armor was even stronger. When it was completed, it would be even stronger. Thinking about the few good items that he still had, Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Ha! Now, I can be called the treasure boy. Lin Feng once had the idea to give each of his personal disciples a Dharma treasure after they reached the Yuanying realm. From the looks of it, he was close to achieving his goal. Chapter 496. A good first step in sacrificial refining of a magic treasure was half the battle. After that, it was simply a matter of patience and time. Lin Feng first put away the dragon divine sky armor, then looked at the yellow dragon corpse in front of him. At this moment, only a body of dragon scales, skeleton, dragon tendons, and dragon blood remained. Although Jiayu was only at the level of a demon king, he was an armored black dragon. The dragon scales were even more valuable. Under the catalyzing effect of the yellow dragon and flame dragon's supernatural power, their potential was very high. Therefore, Lin Feng ultimately used the original black dragon scales instead of the yellow dragon scales. But this did not mean that the yellow dragon scales were useless. After all, they were dragon scales left behind by a yellow dragon with an indestructible demon soul. At this moment, Lin Feng had a rough idea in his mind. Therefore, he put away the yellow dragon scales and flicked his finger. The dragon blood sealed by his purple chi's supernatural power flew into the dark heaven time light grotto heaven. In there, apart from Lin Feng's 3 disciples, his own iron tree clone had been cultivating in seclusion. Lin Feng sent in the yellow dragon blood and poured it all over the iron tree clone. The iron tree clone's hands changed continuously as he circulated his supernatural power to the extreme to absorb the dragon blood essence. For the iron tree clone, which was still at the Yuanying stage, the spiritual power contained in the indestructible demon's soul dragon blood essence was too majestic. Not many early Yuanying cultivators could absorb such a powerful blood essence. Lin Feng's actions were suspected of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. But his clone's foundation was too strong. At this moment, the Shura iron tree showed its great potential and endurance as one of the 4 great spiritual plants of heaven and earth. After being irrigated by the yellow dragon blood essence, it was a little unbearable at first, but as time went on, it became more and more energetic. The iron tree clone's entire body was soaked in the yellow dragon blood essence. Majestic and tyrannical demonic power and spiritual chi poured into his limbs, every pore, and every acupoint like a monstrous flood. Under the nourishment of the yellow dragon blood essence, the iron tree clone's power grew rapidly. Outside the cave, Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction and then sent out a thought to Jiayu and his wife who were staying in the cave residence's stone room. Jiayu and White Light husband and wife came before Lin Feng together. Jiayu's expression was somewhat perturbed. Although his wife White Light's expression was calm, her gaze was also somewhat uneasy. Previously, when Lin Feng was refining the dragon deity sky armor, they all felt it. As pure-blooded dragons, Jiayu and his wife were the most sensitive to the aura of the dragon race. Moreover, that yellow dragon had cultivated to the immortal demon's soul realm when it was alive. Even after its death, the dragon's might did not dissipate. Both husband and wife were a little nervous at the moment. They didn't know why Lin Feng had called them over. With a thought from Lin Feng, a complete set of yellow dragon skeleton floated in front of Jiayu and his wife. Silently, he said, "Jiayu, you've been on this seat's mountain for some time. All along, you've been doing your best. This seat has seen all of this." Jia Feng hurriedly said he didn't dare. Lin Feng continued, "This set of dragon bones was gifted to this seat by the great Qin dynasty. This seat is now bestowing it to you. As for how to deal with it, you can decide for yourself." Jia Feng was stunned. His spiritual awareness probed the dragon bones. That overwhelming dragon's might immediately made him realize that this was the skeleton of a dragon king that had attained the immortal demon's soul realm in the past. Happiness came too suddenly. Jiayu was actually stunned for a moment. Although it was the remains of a yellow dragon that was not of the same race as him, he could also refine and obtain the power within, allowing his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. After Jiayu came back to his senses, he was overjoyed. "Thank you, Sect Master." He paused for a moment and looked hesitantly at Lin Feng, then at his wife, White Light, who was beside him. Lin Feng smiled faintly, "The thing is bestowed to you. As for how to deal with it, you can decide for yourself. Refine it yourself or give it to someone else. This seat won't care." The joy on Jia Yu's face grew even thicker. White Light's gaze towards her husband was filled with gentleness, but she didn't say much. She only thanked Lin Feng together with Jia Yu. Returning to the cave-dwelling stone room, Jia Feng took out the yellow dragon skeleton like presenting a treasure. He smiled, "Wife, quickly refine it. At that time, don't mention mid-stage Demon King, even late-stage Demon King can be achieved in one go. In the future, attaining an immortal demon soul is also in the bag." White Light shook her head, "Husband, it's because you're a member of Xianmen Tianzong and you're doing things diligently, that's why Sect Master Lin bestowed this set of dragon bones to you. Although he clearly said that you can decide how to deal with it, I'm a guest here after all. It's not appropriate for you to give it to me." Jia Yu still wanted to say more when White Light raised her hand to cover his mouth. "Husband, this is your fortuitous encounter. I don't wish for you to give it to me. Compared to myself, I hope to see you raise your strength and cultivation even more." Jia Yu laughed bitterly, "Your talent is better than mine. Giving it to you isn't considered a waste. I won't undervalue myself. After I refine this set of dragon bones, I can definitely advance to mid-stage Demon King immediately. In the future, my path to charge to late-stage Demon King will also be much smoother. But whether or not I can attain an immortal demon soul is still unknown." White Light smiled, "I believe you can definitely do it. Do you still remember the day of our wedding? You said that one day, you'll bring me to swim in the dragon pool openly and let others have nothing to say." Jia Yu looked up at the ceiling of the stone chamber and murmured, I really remember." Lin Feng had no intention of listening to the dragon couple's private conversation. Indeed, Lin Feng wouldn't care about how they used the yellow dragon bones after bestowing them to Jia Yu. Of course, Lin Feng's intention of bestowing the dragon bones was to raise Jia Yu's strength. The old black dragon's sense of belonging to Xianmen Tianzong was getting stronger and stronger. Raising his strength was only beneficial. As for whether or not it would be a waste of resources, that was not to the extent of it. The smelting black dragon was actually one of the races with the greatest potential and stamina among the many primordial celestial dragon races. The higher one's cultivation realm, the stronger one's strength would be compared to other dragons of the same level. However, the black dragon race was difficult to cultivate and their numbers were relatively few. Therefore, there were very few smelting black dragons that attained the immortal demon soul realm. To be fair, Jia Yu's talent wasn't considered too high in the dragon race. At the very least, it couldn't be compared to his wife. But in fact, it wasn't low either. It was above average. Due to the immense psychological pressure in recent years, he actually hadn't achieved the results he should have. With focused grooming, the old black dragon still had a lot of potential to be unearthed. While pondering, Lin Feng sensed that Xiao Yan and Zen Master Dade had returned to the mountain together. In the Wuzhou's Xiao family, the person Xiao Yan was most worried about was his grandfather. And as the head of the family, it was impossible for old man Xiao to abandon the entire family and follow Xiao Yan to Mount Yujing alone. However, old man Xiao was experienced in the ways of the world. He knew that in the clash between the two colossi, Xianmen Tianzong and the Mount Shu sword sect, only a small ripple would be enough to destroy the Xiao family. Therefore, even though he felt that it was difficult to leave his homeland, in order to not make things difficult for Xiao Yan, he still decided to go with Xiao Yan. However, he hoped that Xiao Yan could protect the entire Xiao family. Nowadays, Xiao Yan had long since become indifferent to the feelings of his clansmen. He had an attitude of accepting people who were willing to leave Wuzhou. Due to the attraction of Xiao Yan's current position and the power of Xianmen Tianzong behind him, the majority of the Xiao family were willing to follow. However, there were still some people who were greedy for the glory of the Xiao family being the only family in Wuzhou. Here, the Xiao family had deep roots, branches and leaves extending to every corner of Wuzhou. They were practically already in existence like a local tyrant. Even the mayor of Wuzhou was somewhat courteous to the Shao family. If they moved under the eyes of Xianmen Tianzong and Xiao Yan, it would be hard to avoid having a lot more misgivings when doing things. It was far away like this in Wuzhou, yet they could borrow Xiao Yan's power to be free and unfettered. Some people were even secretly delighted in their hearts. Old man Xiao left Wuzhou together with Xiao Yan. Without his control, they could be even more unbridled. Xiao Yan and old man Xiao saw all of this. Old man Xiao sighed in his heart while Xiao Yan had an indifferent attitude. So the two of them only brought along the clansmen who were willing to follow them and return to Kunlun Mountain. Even so, there were still quite a few people with big families and businesses. Old man Xiao pondered for a long time and didn't want to cause trouble for Xiao Yan. In the end, he rejected Xiao Yan's repeated proposal for them to head to Fenshan Cliff. Instead, he led his clansmen to Shazhou city to settle down. Xiao Yan's persuasion was fruitless and he could only helplessly agree. Luckily, Shazhou was really much closer than Wuzhou. Furthermore, it was within the range of Xianmen Tianzong's influence. Lin Feng actually didn't mind the Shao family going up the mountain. They lived on Fenshan Cliff anyways. Furthermore, all contact with the outside world couldn't be hidden from Lin Feng's eyes and ears. If someone wanted to bribe and collude, Lin Feng would also be able to discover it. So he didn't care too much about this. After Xiao Yan and Zen Master Dade came to report to him, Lin Feng left Xiao Yan behind. After this period of training, the true fire in Xiao Yan's body gradually stabilized. His own mana has also been honed to the point, already having the possibility of assailing the late stage of the golden elixir. The only problem is that when facing the tribulation, he has to be wary of the true fire causing trouble again. Lin Feng lightly flicked his finger and a speck of light landed in front of Xiao Yan. The speck of light became larger, it was a block of crimson red wood. It was a foot long. In the center of the wood, there was a faint flicker of fire, like a living creature breathing, one bright one dark, constantly crisscrossing. Xiao Yan's eyes lit up. It's the wudong tree's heart. Back in the cloud forest world, he used this item to help him uproot the cloud forest tree. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. That's right. I'll need this treasure to help you get through the Yin Wind disaster and achieve the late stage of the golden elixir. Follow me. Lin Feng flew first and entered the dark sky time light grotto heaven again. Xiao Yan quickly followed him. Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and Yu Hongyan were still cultivating in seclusion at the moment. Lin Feng brought Xiao Yan to the grotto heaven under the small treasure tree and handed the wudong tree's heart to the young fellow. Xiao Yan sensed the wudong tree's heart burning but not painful. Instead, it vaguely carried a noble and elegant warmth, and he slowly felt his mental state becoming steadier. A majestic and primitive exuberant life force surged in the wudong tree's heart like an inextinguishable fire. Xiao Yan sat with his legs crossed and placed the wudong tree's heart in front of him. He did not want to refine it, but he wanted to borrow the exuberant, gentle, noble, and proud fire spirit's power conception to help him merge the three true fires inside his body. Xiao Yan slowly closed his eyes and slowly immersed himself in the cultivation of the path technique. On the other hand, Lin Feng stood silently in the grotto heaven to observe his four disciples' movements. All of a sudden, he clearly sensed a Yin wind hovering above Zhu Yi's head. It was the Yin wind disaster from the middle stage of the golden elixir art to the late stage of the golden elixir art. Chapter 497. If a mid-stage golden elixir cultivator wanted to advance to the late-stage golden elixir, they had to overcome the Yin wind tribulation. The spiritual qi gathered by the cultivator's tribulation would turn into a Yin wind that blew from the Baihui acupoint on the top of the head. In the blink of an eye, the soul would be blown away and turned into dust. The Yin fire tribulation was to burn away the impurities in the golden elixir, while the Yin wind tribulation was to polish the flaws on the surface of the golden elixir. After these 2 hurdles, a cultivator's golden elixir could reach the flawless realm and prepare for the nascent soul formation. At this moment, Zhu Yi began to challenge the Yin Wind tribulation and attack the late-stage golden elixir realm. This was a hurdle that no one could avoid. Every cultivator had to pass this hurdle if they wanted to advance to the late-stage golden elixir. Even if Lin Feng had advanced because of the system's reward, he still had to overcome the Yin Wind tribulation. However, he had accumulated a lot and had a profound Tao, so the Yin Wind tribulation didn't cause any danger. But now, Zhu Yi was undergoing the tribulation. Lin Feng observed and nodded. He knew that if Zhu Yi wanted to pass this hurdle, it wouldn't be difficult as long as there were no major accidents. This was the benefit of having accumulated a lot of experience. Many mid-stage golden elixir cultivators were afraid of the Yin Wind tribulation and didn't dare to advance at all. As for people like Zhu Yi and the others, they were very calm. They calmly endured the Yin Wind tribulation and let it help them polish their golden elixir. Seeing that there were no problems with Zhu Yi's cultivation, Lin Feng retracted his gaze. He thought for a moment and looked up at the void in the distance in the mysterious heaven-time light grotto heaven. His gaze seemed to pass through layers of space and land on the disciples' abode on Yujing Mountain. Even though the group of junior disciples dispersed and returned to their own rooms, there were still some people who still gathered together in 2s and 3s, still excitedly discussing the battle between Lin Feng and Shu Mountain, the lofty feeling of looking down on everyone. All kinds of foundations have to be built slowly. Lin Feng took out a pure white stone with floating cloud patterns on its surface. The stone was overflowing with spirit qi and contained an ethereal power concept, as if there were layers of space accumulating. This was the treasure that Lin Feng had obtained from the system, the heavenly soul cloudy stone. It was one of the top materials for refining weapons in the great heaven primal world and could be called a priceless treasure. This item was extremely rare, produced above the 9 heavens clouds, its effects heaven-defying. It naturally contained the mysteries of space, as well as the effects of recovering one's vitality. As long as a little bit of it was added into the sacrificial refining magic tool, the magic tool would have the ability to travel through space. If the magic tool was damaged, it could even absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to slowly repair the damage. For cultivators below the nascent soul stage, refining a magical artifact that contained the heavenly soul cloud stone was not only very practical, but it also allowed them to comprehend the mysteries of the void in advance before transcending the void thunder tribulation, which would increase their chances of transcending the void thunder tribulation and forming their nascent soul. Lin Feng's Taoist law, the 8 diagrams of the Great Way of Heaven, allowed cultivators to comprehend the power of space very early. At this moment, with the help of the heavenly soul cloudy stone, it would be even more helpful for their cultivation and greatly increase their chances of reaching the nascent soul realm. Of course, the junior disciples were still far away from this point. On the contrary, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi and the others could use it. The other second-generation disciples obtained the magic tools mostly because of the special effect of traveling through space, and they enjoyed the convenience of the magic tool's automatic repair after being damaged. Lin Feng flicked his finger, and a small piece of the heavenly soul cloudy stone broke and turned into a stream of light. Then, Lin Feng kept adding other materials, fusing them with the heavenly soul cloudy stone, and refining them. With Lin Feng's current cultivation, if he didn't refine magic tools, he could almost make a magic tool with a wave of his hand. Soon, a faint cloud like white smoke floated in the air. The white cloud fell into Lin Feng's hand and turned into a piece of white silk. This can be named the Cloud Qi Immortal Net. Lin Feng received the item, faintly smiling. The entire cloudstone of the heavenly soul shattered into a few larger pieces. He then took a bit of material from the top, separately refining it into a few sections of Cloud Qi Immortal Net. These pieces of Cloud Qi Immortal Net would be given by Lin Feng to Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the other personal disciples, who hadn't reached the nascent soul realm yet. Lin Feng would keep one piece of the broken heavenly soul cloudy stone and give the rest to Xiao Yan and the others. Then, they would refine the Cloud Qi Immortal Net themselves and pass it on to their disciples. The disciples who hadn't reached the next level could also be rewarded based on their performance. The junior disciples' cultivation levels were still low, but when their cultivation levels gradually increased, the Cloud Chi Immortal Net would be useful. It could be used as a means of transportation and in battle. After transforming the refining method of the Cloud Chi Immortal Net into a few finished products, Lin Feng put the matter aside for the time being. And at this time, Zhu Yi's cultivation was also close to completion. The Yin wind in his body suddenly stopped, and the violent Yin wind turned back into the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth. There was no transition time and process at all. Suddenly, there was a sense of matter of fact, as if the laws of heaven and earth should be like this. Everything couldn't be more natural. A golden elixir flashed with purple light. It was smooth and round, and there weren't any holes or blemishes on its surface. It was still perfect and flawless. Zhu Yi's golden elixir was half black and half white, but they blended together like water and milk. It seemed like they were one whole, but the black and white colors were clearly separated. Within the golden elixir, the two kinds of energy, light and dark, were incomparably balanced. They intertwined and promoted each other, as if they had unlimited growth potential. After a long time, the fluctuation of aura in Zhu Yi's body completely calmed down. He opened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng in front of him. "Master." Lin Feng smiled and reached out to touch the space between Zhu Yi's eyebrows. It was a Taoist scripture that was transmitted into Zhu Yi's sea of consciousness. The second chapter of the Heavenly Virtue Scripture, the Four Symbols chapter, the Four Symbols Heaven Opening Scripture. This was the Taoist scripture that Lin Feng would impart to Zhu Yi and the other personal disciples after they advanced to the late stage of the golden elixir and when they were preparing to form their nascent souls. Now that Zhu Yi had successfully broken through, Lin Feng naturally had to impart it to him. Zhu Yi's spirit was roused, and the magic power in his body naturally circulated according to the method of the Four Symbols Heaven Opening Scripture. The chaos shattered, and the changes of the earth, water, fire, and wind were performed. They settled down once again, and the world was born. Lin Feng silently watched him cultivate. He saw that a dense mist rose around Zhu Yi's body, surging and surging, and there were faint lights and shadows flashing in the mist. Looking closely, he saw that one of the light shadows became clearer and clearer. It was huge, with the body of an elk, the tail of a dragon, and the scales of a dragon. It had a gentle aura, and its body was covered with auspicious clouds. It had the appearance of a qilin. Other than this qilin light shadow, there were three other light shadows rising and falling in the dense mist, about to condense and take shape. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. Through the 8 trigram scripture of the Great Way of the Heavens, he already knew that his disciples would have their own comprehensions when cultivating the Taoist scripture. Especially the 4 of them, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao, their comprehensions of the Taoist scripture would carry more personal marks. Perhaps this was also a major characteristic of the 4 of them. Now that Zhu Yi was cultivating the Four Symbols Heaven Opening Scripture, it was obvious that on the basis of the Taoist scripture, he had integrated his own understanding of the true meaning of the Great Way, which was ingenious. Xiaois are the 4 spirits, right? Lin Feng took a look at the 4 light shadows and nodded slightly. These light shadows did not mean that Zhu Yi had modified the Taoist scripture, but his personal understanding of the Four Symbols Heaven Opening Scripture, which was gradually derived and turned into actual external images. It was a kind of sustenance, a kind of condensation. It was similar to a primordial soul adept cultivating a top supernatural power to the realm of perfection, and condensing a supernatural power Dharma body. Zhu Yi had yet to form a primordial soul, so these light shadows were naturally not as strong as the supernatural power Dharma body, but their nature was similar. Of the 4 light shadows, only the qilin light shadow was completely formed, and the other 3 were still blurry. The light shadows sank into the dense light mist together, and the mist returned to Zhu Yi's body. After Zhu Yi stopped cultivating, he stood up and bowed to Lin Feng, "Master." Lin Feng nodded and smiled, "Xiaoyi, very good." You have a card up your sleeve, and good preparation. Ordinary people are afraid of the wind tribulation, but you are walking on flat ground. Zhu Yi said, I still have to thank you for your guidance, Master. He paused and frowned slightly. Master, after studying your new 4 symbols opening heaven book, I have benefited a lot, but there are still some parts that I can't figure out. It's okay, replied Lin Feng, the more you can't figure out, the more it's worth it for you to carefully figure it out. Zhu Yi nodded repeatedly, that's right. Lin Feng said, next, you should focus on nourishing it, and also prepare for your exam in the fall. Oh right, Xiaoyi, if that little girl Jun Zining brings people to join you for the exam this time, you can bring them back to the mountain. Zhu Yi raised his eyebrows slightly, then, what if they don't come? Do I need to look for them? If they are in danger and ask you for help, there's no harm in helping them. Lin Feng said lightly, if not, there's no need to worry too much. Right now Lin Feng's mentality has already gradually changed. Towards talented people, he still wants to take them in, but it's not that he has to get them. In a mansion in the east of Tianjing city of the Great Zhou dynasty. This was the mansion of the Great Zhou dynasty's crown prince's junior master, Qin Yu. In a small courtyard in the backyard of the Qin mansion, 2 young girls were sitting face to face, staring at each other. The older one was dressed in green, about 12 or 13 years old. It was Jun Zining. At this moment, she was looking at the younger girl in red with a helpless expression. Xiao Wu, what should I say to you? The girl in red was Luo Qinggu. She said with a bitter smile, Sister Zining, I already know that I was wrong. What happened in the past was completely my family's own decision. It has nothing to do with Senior Lin and Xianmen Tianzong. Xiao Wu has long understood this. Luo Qinggu twisted the corner of her clothes and said softly, but because of this, how can Xiao Wu ask Senior Lin for help now? Senior Lin is a magnanimous person. Maybe he won't take such a small matter to heart, but Xiao Wu can't be so shameless. The little girl covered her face with both hands and cried out in distress, you took your anger out on him and still want to ask him for treatment. How can there be such a thick-skinned person? Jun Zining sighed, that's why I said, why are you so stubborn? You should turn around now and sincerely apologize. Senior Lin is magnanimous, he won't really care about it. How can a few simple words of apology be enough? Luo Qinggu clenched her small fist and shook it, I have to do something to apologize to Senior Lin. Jun Zining looked at Luo Qinggu suspiciously, you? What can you do? Sister Zining, don't look at me like that. Luo Qinggu's small eyes rolled and she smiled. I've discovered something. Chapter 498. Jun Zining looked at Luo Qinggu curiously, found something. What did you find out? As soon as the words came out, Jun Zining suddenly froze and looked around, this is Qin Yu's mansion. Qin Yu is the crown prince's disciple in the Great Zhou dynasty. The crown prince, it can't be. Luo Qinggu lowered her voice and said, I heard that it's because Senior Lin's disciple, brother Zhu Yi, is close to the 4th prince of the Great Zhou dynasty. The crown prince is very dissatisfied. Jun Zining's expression became serious, Xiao Wu, how did you know? Luo Qinggu replied, he's Lord Chen's little grandson. Sister Zining, you've also met him 2 days ago. But before you came, at a garden party, he and a few other descendants of the big clans drank too much and let loose, so they mentioned a few things. Someone questioned him. He said he heard it from his grandfather, but after he sobered up, he denied it. Jun Zining said in a low voice, I heard that although Qin Yu doesn't have much cultivation, he is the confidant of the great Zhou crown prince. He has always doted on his youngest grandson. Perhaps the news is somewhat credible, but logically speaking, he wouldn't reveal such an important matter to his descendants. Qin Yu has been in the limelight for many years. He shouldn't make such a low-level mistake. Could it be that he deliberately leaked false news to you through this method? Luo Qinggu tilted her head, it's possible. She and Luo Qi had contact with Lin Feng in Kunlun Mountain. The Luo family knew about it, so it was hard to guarantee that the news would not be leaked. Perhaps someone wanted to use this channel to deliberately leak the news to Lin Feng. It was hard to determine whether the news was true or not. But it's hard to say. Many times, secrets are leaked because of some seemingly bizarre things, but it's true. It's even more ridiculous than a ghost story in a novel. Jun Zining said like a little adult, "Don't rush. Let's be careful. Let's continue to investigate and figure out the situation before making a decision." Yes. Luo Qinggu nodded. Xiao Wu also thinks so. There's no smoke without fire. Since there's this kind of information, whether it's true or false, there's definitely someone with bad intentions behind the scenes. Jun Zining said, "The person you're talking about, Brother Zhu Yi, will be coming to Tianjing City personally this autumn. When the time comes, we can go find him. He might be able to see through the truth of the matter." Luo Qinggu was a little lost in thought. She sensed that the heavenly accumulating dark soul pearl in her body was on the verge of shattering. Although it was on the verge of shattering, it was held in place by a wave of vitality and was not truly destroyed. That vitality was formed from the essence of Lin Feng's bipolar innate flower's petals. Uncle Lin. The red-clothed little loli curled her legs in front of her chest and hugged her arms as she stared blankly at the sky. At the same time, the protagonist of the conversation between the two little girls, Lin Feng and his disciple, were in the mysterious Heaven-Time cave. Lin Feng smiled and said, "You can study this thing." As he spoke, Lin Feng gave the Cloud Aura Immortal Net and the Heavenly Soul Cloudstone Fragment to Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi took it and scanned it with his spiritual power. He immediately found that it was extraordinary and looked up at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled without saying a word. "This thing is really precious." Zhu Yi kept the Cloud Aura Immortal Net and the Heavenly Soul Cloudstone Fragment together. Although it was not of much value to him at the moment, Zhu Yi understood after thinking for a while. After refining the Heavenly Soul Cloudstone into multiple Cloud Aura Immortal Nets, it would be of great use to his disciples. Subsequently, Zhu Yi went to study the Cloud Aura Immortal Net and the Heavenly Soul Cloudstone Fragment, whereas Lin Feng focused on the other three people. The tiny Shi Tianhao was still inside the purple furnace. Silently, he refined his golden elixir and spiritual power. Various rare treasures were gathered inside the furnace, but it would take a long time to refine their powers. Shi Tianhao was very patient in his cultivation journey. He was not impatient at all as he refined and repaired his golden elixir bit by bit. At the same time, he succeeded one step at a time to prepare for the final transformation. Xiao Yan was the same. His spiritual power was pure enough, but he did not challenge the cold wind disaster blindly to advance to the later stage of the golden elixir. Throughout this period, he had been carefully adjusting the balance of the three essential fires inside him and comprehending the wudong tree's power conception. Sharpening a knife would not delay the work of cutting firewood. If he made more preparations now, the cold wind disaster would be much smoother in the future. If the essential fires suddenly rebelled during the cold wind disaster, Xiao Yan would be in danger of dying because he would be trapped inside and outside, and wind and fire would intersect. Lin Feng could help him suppress the essential fires when they rebelled, but one could only work hard when one was going through the cold wind disaster because no one else could help. If something went wrong, perhaps Lin Feng could save his life, but Xiao Yan's vitality would definitely be greatly damaged. From Xiao Yan's personality, he has always been courageous and diligent. Now that he sees that the bottleneck is right in front of him, he still has to be patient and slowly plan for it. From a certain point of view, it can also be counted as a form of training. On the other hand, Yu Hongyan was ready. He had begun to form his core and was going to break through to the golden elixir boundary. If it was someone else, they might feel awkward wearing an artifact from the great Zhou dynasty, which they had a blood feud with. But Yu Hongyan would not feel that way. This fierce girl would only feel that using the enemy's artifact to kill the enemy was more convenient and satisfying. Yu Hongyan was a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts, but overall, she was more inclined towards the direction of a martial cultivator. Especially her fighting style was more inclined towards close combat, and her fists hit flesh. Therefore, the golden crown of the ghost and god was a very suitable artifact for her. Of course, this artifact was given to Lin Feng by the great Zhou dynasty, and Lin Feng gave it to Yu Hongyan, who had a blood feud with the great Zhou dynasty. If this fell into the eyes of the great Zhou dynasty, it would be a bit unfair and a bit of a slap in the face. But this would only touch the nerves of the people in the great Zhou dynasty. At the level of Lin Feng and Emperor Liang Pan, this kind of thing, to put it bluntly, was just a bargaining chip in a game, and they were just playing with each other. In the future, as Xianmen Tianzong's strength continued to increase, and as his influence grew, the game with the great Zhou dynasty would also unfold in all aspects. Whether it was Zhu Yi or Yu Hongyan, they were all inextricably linked to the great Zhou dynasty, and they would have a long time to interact with each other. Therefore, Lin Feng did not care, and directly gave the golden crown of the ghost and god to Yu Hongyan, and helped her refine this Yuanying artifact. As long as a direct disciple succeeded in forming his or her gold core, he or she would be bestowed with a nascent soul realm magical item. In the eyes of the entire human cultivation world in the vast land of the Divine Land, such an act was extremely generous. It was enough to make most of the sects jealous. After Yu Hongyan formed the golden elixir, her understanding of Tao and the great Tao of heaven and earth were further improved. The Tao that she originally cultivated had many new experiences and questions, and she took this opportunity to ask Lin Feng. After Lin Feng answered them one by one, Yu Hongyan left to continue to study Tao. She had just formed her Azoth, and still needed to consolidate her realm. Lin Feng also gave her her share of the Cloud Chi Immortal Net and the Heavenly Soul Cloudy Stone Fragment. Looking at Yu Hongyan's back as she left, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with a hint of imperceptible pity, and he sighed softly. What a pity! The quality of the golden elixir was generally divided into purple elixir, red elixir, green elixir, and yellow elixir. The purple elixir was the best, and the yellow elixir was the worst. Yu Hongyan forming her purple elixir was a cause for celebration in any other force, but Lin Feng still felt slightly regretful. If a vision could appear above the purple elixir, the quality would be a level higher. For example, Xiaoyan's golden elixir of true fire, Zhu Yi's golden elixir of light and darkness, Wang Lin's golden elixir of life and death, and Shi Tianhao's 9 orifices golden elixir were all visions above the purple elixir. But now it seemed that not everyone could form the best of the best golden elixir. Yu Hongyan didn't succeed, but what about Yang Qing and the others? Although they were all Lin Feng's direct disciples, and the total value of the 4 talents had reached 30 or above, there was still a gap. Lin Feng grinned. Sure enough, not everyone has the ability to go against the heavens. Otherwise, the Son of Heaven wouldn't be the Son of Heaven. At this moment, Lin Feng's heart suddenly moved, and he turned to look in another direction. Yu Yan is finally preparing to cross the Yin Wind tribulation. Chapter 499. Xiao Yan sat cross-legged and continued to operate his Tao technique. Flames emerged from his body and flickered non-stop. The dark purple-blue flame was the netherworld evil flame. The pure gold that shone like a needle was the sun's true fire. The golden flame that flashed red and blue was the Nanmingli fire. The flames of the 3 great true fires alternated on Xiao Yan's body, going round and round. Due to the chaos caused by the true fire in his body, he had been quietly cultivating these past few days, making up for the flaw of having an unstable foundation that he had lost while advancing valiantly. It was like a new wine that had been aged. The wine fragrance was no longer strong, but it was more mellow and thick. To Xiao Yan, this is actually also a hard-to-come-by training, allowing him to pass through the Yin Wind tribulation without mishap at this moment. With the 3 true fires quiet and not causing trouble, Xiao Yan successfully passed the tribulation and advanced to the late stage of the golden elixir realm, just like Zhu Yi. Behind Xiao Yan, the flame wings spread out again, but it was no longer the original 2 wings, one gold and one purple. There were a total of 6 flame wings, divided into 3 pairs and spread out symmetrically. The pair of flame wings on his shoulder was formed by the purple-blue netherworld evil flame. The pair of pure gold flame wings on both sides of his back was formed by the sun's true fire. Then, below his waist, the 3rd pair of flame wings spread out. The golden flame and the red and blue light were formed by the Nanmingli fire. A sense of violent power spread out, giving people an incomparably valiant and deterrent force that far exceeded the current realm. After a long time, Xiao Yan finished the preliminary cultivation. He opened his eyes and said with a happy smile, "Master, I succeeded." Lin Feng also nodded. Very good, the previous hard work was not in vain. Under the contrast of the 6 flame wings, Xiao Yan's body was like a god. His face revealed a trace of a gratified smile, a delightful feeling surged unceasingly in his chest and he could not help but let out a long howl towards the sky. Like a tiger roaring in the forest, his laughter shook the sky and pierced through the clouds. The space within the mysterious heaven-time light paradise seemed to become even brighter. Other than Shi Tianhao, who was still cultivating in the purple great furnace, Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan, who were cultivating in the distance, looked over and said together, "Congratulations, eldest senior brother." The 2 of them revealed smiles on their faces. Ever since they encountered the calamity of the true fire, Xiao Yan had become very different from what they remembered. Although he was still bold and unrestrained, his body carried a heavy aura of lethargy. He had buried his sharpness deep within his heart, always having misgivings. He was like a tiger that had fallen to the plains, no longer majestic. And now, this ferocious tiger had finally broken free from its cage and returned to its own territory, its own world, and once again became the proud king of the forest. This was the first disciple of Xianmen Tianzong in their memories. He was resolute, unyielding, brave, and fearless. When the sect was provoked and threatened, he was always the first one to stand up. Xiao Yan had successfully advanced to the late stage of the golden elixir, and Lin Feng had also imparted the Tao art of the 4 symbols heaven-opening scripture to him. Lin Feng raised his eyes and looked at the purple great furnace that was held in the palm of the great Sun Emperor. And, in this case, only tiny Todd is left. Shi Tianhao had absorbed the essence of various treasures to transform the golden elixir. This was a very long process, but as long as he was on the right track, he just had to wait patiently. When Lin Feng came out of the mysterious heaven-time light paradise, he would also split a part of his attention to look after Shi Tianhao. Therefore, he was not worried that there would be any mistakes. After Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and Yu Hongyan cultivated for a period of time, they also returned to their respective cave abodes. There, they still had their inner chamber disciples to teach. At the same time, the 3 of them obtained the heavenly soul cloud stone fragment and the refining method of the cloud chi celestial net. This time, Xiao Yan could finally hold his head up high. Not only had he finally advanced to the late stage of the golden elixir and gotten rid of the pain caused by the true fire, he was also the most proficient in refining the cloud chi celestial net. The speed was the fastest, and the quality was the best. Lin Feng saw everything and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. To be fair, among everyone, Xiaoyi's talent in refining weapons is the highest. However, Xiaoyan has a cheating device. After advancing to the late stage of the golden elixir, Xiao Yan could freely control the 3 great true fires in his body. Not just the Nether Evil Emperor and Sun True Fire, but also the Nan Mingli fire that he had obtained later on. Among the 7 great true fires in the world, the Nan Mingli fire was the most suitable true fire for refining weapons and alchemy. Using this fire to refine elixirs or to refine magic weapons would yield twice the result with half the effort. Not only could it speed up the refining process, but it could also improve the quality of the finished product. Its effect was extremely heaven-defying. Xiao Yan could now finally completely control the Nan Mingli fire. Not only did it make his strength soar, but it also made great progress in alchemy and refining weapons. During this time, Lin Feng had collected some medicinal materials. The materials on hand were complete, so he simply gave the pill formulas of the Heaven Spirit Replenishing Pill and the Marrow Cleansing Pill, as well as the Spirit Ascending Grass, the Spirit Spring Marrow Cleansing Grass, and other medicinal materials to Xiao Yan. After obtaining the Nan Mingli fire, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel excited. After understanding the use of the two kinds of elixirs, he immediately ran into the pill room and fiddled with the heaven-returning gold pavilion. Not much time had passed in the outside world, but in the mysterious sky timeless light cave, time had passed quickly. Lin Feng soon felt that Shi Tianhao was about to finish his cultivation and begin to prepare for the last hurdle, to cross the Yin Wind tribulation and achieve the golden elixir leakless. In the purple chi furnace, a large amount of Kuan Peng true blood had been reduced by half, and the heaven-repairing vine on the mouth of the furnace had also disappeared. An innumerable amount of spiritual essence was absorbed into Shi Tianhao's body, and the golden elixir in his body was shining brightly. The entire golden elixir was covered with colorful rays of light, turning into a colorful ball of light. On this colorful ball of light, there were 9 dazzling purple gold light spots that were constantly flashing. The heavenly gate above Shi Tianhao's head blew down, and the Yin Wind tribulation officially began. In the face of the terrifying Yin Wind, Shi Tianhao was not in a hurry and calmly dealt with it. Not only was he not afraid, but he also used the Yin Wind tribulation to help his golden elixir complete the final transformation. After a long time, the violent Yin Wind suddenly stopped, and then endless light erupted from Shi Tianhao's body. First, it was his golden elixir, and then his whole body was emitting a dazzling light. The remaining Kuan Peng true blood around his body was constantly shaking, and at this moment, it was continuously absorbed into Shi Tianhao's body. His body seemed to have become a huge abyss, greedily devouring all the spiritual essence and treasures in the surroundings. The void was shaking, and only the purple furnace formed by Lin Feng's magic power remained stable. Rays of light shot out from the mouth of the furnace, shooting straight into the sky. In the light, there were endless symbols and patterns flashing densely. In the furnace, it was as if a Khanate supremacy was awakening, swallowing everything, and only he was supreme. The light flooded the world. Shi Tianhao's body slowly rose from the furnace. His skin was perfect and flawless, and the surface of his body was engraved with countless characters and runes. In the next moment, these characters and runes were absorbed into his body along with the endless light. In his body, there was a flawless golden elixir that was flickering with violet light, and it was constantly spinning as it absorbed the divine light. The 9 orifices on the golden elixir had already disappeared, and the golden elixir had reached perfection. Although Shi Tianhao's golden elixir wasn't absorbing spiritual energy like before, it was still extremely agile. The golden elixir was like a transparent glass, and there was a dazzling divine light circulating within the golden elixir. The divine light seemed to contain all things, including the profundities of the ancient times. As the divine light circulated, Shi Tianhao's golden elixir was also absorbing spiritual energy. The absorption of spiritual energy was even more terrifying than when he was in the 9th orifice of the Xiantian realm. Furthermore, it was extremely smooth, and there was no need for him to refine it. As the divine light revolved, the spiritual energy would be converted into spiritual energy. When Lin Feng saw all of this, he smiled. It's a success. It's truly better than the 9 orifice golden elixir. Aside from improving the 9 orifice golden elixir, there's something more miraculous about it. But it's not obvious right now. I'm afraid that he will only reveal his true potential after he forms his nascent soul. The purple energy furnace dissipated and Shi Tianhao stood on the palm of the great Sun Yen Emperor. He smiled and looked into the sky. Master. Well done. Lin Feng's silhouette appeared in the sky and he nodded his head in gratification. As he grew older, Shi Tianhao's big eyes didn't lose their liveliness. Instead, they became even more spirited. His eyeballs rolled around and he smiled. Then, Master, if I do well, will there be a reward? Lin Feng appeared before him and flicked Lin Feng's forehead. You won't be lacking after you form your nascent soul. Brat, you still have a long way to go. Shi Tianhao giggled and the Tao formula of the 4 divisions heaven opening book appeared in his mind. He immediately started to cultivate it seriously. Seeing the cultivation of his disciples improve, Lin Feng was also happy. The only thing that worried him was Wang Lin, who was lost in the void battlefield. The war god clone was still searching for him in the void battlefield. Although he didn't come into contact with him, he had heard news about Wang Lin from other people. But there was still no substantial progress. Luckily, Wang Lin's life lamp was not extinguished. Although there was a period when the lamp became extremely weak, as if it could be extinguished at any time, which made Lin Feng's heart jump, Wang Lin still managed to survive. After a period of time, the lamp became bright again. This meant that Wang Lin had survived a near-death crisis. In the following days, Lin Feng didn't go out. He cultivated on Yujing Mountain and refined his artifact at the same time. His disciples, such as Xiao Yan and the others, also cultivated, studied, and honed their spells. Those who had disciples also taught them carefully. Wang Lin's mortal forest residence expanded quite a bit. It was no longer a few simple wooden houses. After an expansion, Wang Lin's parents and some of the people who were close to him lived there. It was not until now that they had ascended Yujing Mountain and witnessed all the wondrous sights on Yujing Mountain that they finally understood just how powerful Wang Lin's background was. He had always kept a low profile in his hometown and was willing to live an ordinary life. Before this, even if they were on friendly terms with Wang Lin, they still treated Wang Lin as a junior. But at this moment, these thoughts had completely vanished without a trace. They truly understood that in essence, Wang Lin was someone from a completely different world from them. Chapter 500. Living in mortal forest residence and looking at the main body of Yujing Mountain in the distance, even Wang Lin's parents felt as if a lifetime had passed. A purple-clothed girl came to their side and offered them fragrant tea. She smiled and said, "This is the spiritual tea produced by the medicinal valley on the mountain. It can calm the nerves and nourish the soul, and prolong life. Please enjoy." The Wang family's parents repeatedly said that they didn't dare to accept it. They had seen with their own eyes how this seemingly weak purple-clothed girl could walk with the wind under her feet. This purple-clothed girl was naturally Li Xingfei. She had been studying Tao in Xianmen Tianzong for more than a year, and her qi cultivation had reached a small level. Before she entered the sect, she was not the daughter of an ordinary family. After entering the sect, she had been living on Yujing Mountain, nourishing herself with spiritual qi. Her temperament and appearance became more and more outstanding, and no one dared to underestimate her. Li Xingfei smiled and said, "Master is not here, so Xingfan should serve you too. If you need anything, please let me know." Wang Lin's father hesitated for a moment before asking, Miss, may I ask, my son Wang Lin, what level has he reached in his cultivation?" Li Xingfei replied politely, "Xingfan, as your disciple, does not dare to speculate about Master's cultivation. However, I can be sure that Master has formed the golden elixir and achieved immortality. He can live for 1,000 years, and flying in the sky and controlling thunder and fire is nothing to him." The Wang family's parents' jaws dropped. Wang Lin had never displayed his cultivation in front of his parents. He lived at home to enjoy the happiness of his family, and he also tried to figure out the plain and simple Tao concept. Therefore, when he returned to his hometown, he gave people the feeling that he was just like an ordinary mortal. If it was not for the preferential treatment of the great Qin dynasty, the people in Wang Lin's hometown would find it hard to believe that the skinny youth of the past had really succeeded in his cultivation. In the battle before they parted, the level was too high for ordinary people. In an instant, sand and stones flew everywhere, and the earth cracked. To Wang Lin and the others, it was a very long time, but to mortals, it was only the blink of an eye. Before the Wang family could even react, they were sucked into the spatial rift. After that, Yang Qing took the jade talisman and put it away. They did not understand what was happening in the outside world and could only wait anxiously. When they saw the light of day again, they were already on Mount Yujing. After sitting with the old couple for a while, Li Xingfei said her goodbyes and left. She was very polite. When she left the house and went to the courtyard, she didn't use her movement technique. Only when she was out of the small courtyard did she use her movement technique and quickly flew far away like a bird. The other members of the Wang clan looked at Li Xingfei with complicated gazes. By this point, they all knew that this beautiful girl, who seemed like a heavenly daughter, was actually Wang Lin's apprentice. In the house, Wang Lin's mother kept sighing. Such a beautiful girl, I was thinking that if she could be my son's wife, it would really be a blessing from 8 generations of ancestors. Who knew that this would be the result? This is really a blessing from 80 generations, 800 generations. In front of her, Wang Lin's father patted her and said, "Now, I just hope that the kid can come back quickly." In order to prevent them from worrying, Yang Qing didn't dare to tell them the truth about Wang Lin being lost in the void battlefield. She could only say that Wang Lin was chasing after the enemy to take revenge for the dead. Wang Lin's mother nodded repeatedly. Yes, I don't hope for anything else. I just hope that my son can come back safely." When Li Xingfei left the Wang clan's residence, she didn't return to her wooden house. Instead, she temporarily left Fan Lin residence and went to Zhu Yi's Qian Tian Palace. When Wang Lin wasn't on the mountain, whenever Li Xingfei had any questions in her cultivation, she would ask Zhu Yi, Xiao Yan, and the others. Zhu Yi and the others wouldn't hide anything and would try their best to answer her questions. Looking back at Fan Lin residence, Li Xingfei sighed softly. Her gaze was a little complicated. Ever since she became Wang Lin's apprentice, other than teaching her at the very beginning, her master had always left the mountain and she hadn't seen him in half a year. Her cultivation now was almost no different from when she became Zhu Yi's apprentice. However, the atmosphere in Xianmen Tianzong was very good. The 6 disciples under Lin Feng got along well with each other. Although there were small circles among the younger disciples, on the whole, it was very good. Some of the guests on the mountain were also very friendly after interacting with them. Of course, there were exceptions. Li Xingfei frowned slightly. She looked at the person who was walking towards her from afar. It was a young man who wasn't much older than her. He was tanned and thin, very tall. His facial features were handsome, and his eyes were bright and full of expression. This person looked to be around 17 years old, but his expression was rigid and meticulous, making him look rather mature. Li Xingfei knew that his name was Li Yuanfang. He wasn't a member of Xianmen Tianzong, but a guest here. However, she didn't have a good impression of this person. She, Su Yunsheng, Ying Luoza, and the others had once gathered together to discuss Tao. This Li Yuanfang happened to pass by and overheard their discussion. He endured it and didn't say anything, but his eyebrows furrowed unabashedly. Although Li Yuanfang hadn't officially learned the 8 trigram scripture of the Great Way of Heaven, he was at least at the foundation establishment stage. Occasionally, he would receive pointers from Lin Feng, so he could still see the mistakes in Li Xingfei and the others' understanding of Tao, which were still at the middle and lower levels of qi cultivation. The little fatty under Xiao Yan, Yan Wuwei, noticed Li Yuanfang's expression and raised his doubts in dissatisfaction. After a moment of silence, Li Yuanfang immediately pointed out the omissions in their discussion. After Li Xingfei and the others thought about it seriously, they also found the problem. However, when the disciples of their own sect were discussing, an outsider came to criticize them. Ying Luoza and the little fatty under Xiao Yan were quite dissatisfied. Even though Li Yuanfang was at the foundation establishment stage, they still argued with Li Yuanfang. The scriptures they cited were all from the simplified version of the Taoist canon. Although it was a simplified version, many of the principles were of the same origin. Li Yuanfang's Tao came from Patriarchy too, and he used formations to enter the Tao. Although it was also very profound and extensive, it was still lacking compared to what Ying Luoza and the others had learned. However, his cultivation was higher after all, and his comprehension was also stronger. In the process of debating with Ying Luoza and the others, his understanding of Tao improved. In the end, Su Yunsheng, Li Xingfei, and the others all joined the battle, but they were all defeated. Later on, Zhu Yi was alerted. After Zhu Yi arrived, he convinced Li Yuanfang with just a few words about Tao. When they saw Li Yuanfang sincerely thanking Zhu Yi for his guidance, Li Xingfei and the others were speechless for a moment. Only then did they understand that Li Yuanfang wasn't trying to provoke them on purpose. It was just that it was in his nature. He didn't care about the sand in his eyes, and he was completely unreasonable. Li Xingfei was a gentle and polite person. He was careful with his words and actions, and knew when to advance and when to retreat. When it came to people like Li Yuanfang, he naturally kept a respectful distance from them. When they met face to face, Li Xingfei still bowed with a normal expression. Fellow Taoist Li, when Li Yuanfang saw this, he didn't slight the other party just because he was a qi condensation cultivator. He stopped and said seriously, "Hello." After bidding farewell to Li Yuanfang, Li Xingfei watched curiously as Li Yuanfang walked in the direction of the mysterious heaven treasure tree at the top of Yujing Mountain. Did the patriarch summon him? Li Xingfei's guess was right. Li Yuanfang was indeed going to meet Lin Feng. Lin Feng had seen him a few times before, and each time, he taught him a little about the formation variations of the yin and yang life and death formation. Every once in a while, he would also test him. So much so that now, there was no need for Lin Feng to call him. When the time came, Li Yuanfang would automatically report to him and accept Lin Feng's test. Apart from the yin and yang life and death formation, Lin Feng would also give Li Yuanfang pointers on other Dao techniques. Just like how Li Yuanfang could see the problems in Li Xingfei and the others' cultivation of Dao techniques, it was even easier for Lin Feng to give him pointers. Especially now that Lin Feng had achieved the primordial divinity, the heavenly virtue scripture was all-encompassing, and he could easily figure out the Dao techniques of Patriarch He Tu's lineage. Not to mention Li Yuanfang, even Patriarch He Tu would be greatly enlightened by just a few words from Lin Feng, allowing him to comprehend the true essence of Dao techniques that he had never understood before. In this subtle way, Lin Feng made Li Yuanfang more and more accustomed to living on Yujing Mountain. However, Li Yuanfang's character made it impossible for him to be boiled like a frog in warm water by Lin Feng. He didn't suspect or speculate about Lin Feng, but simply felt that he would feel guilty if he didn't give a clear explanation for constantly receiving Lin Feng's kindness and guidance. So when he saw Lin Feng this time, Li Yuanfang was the first to bow respectfully. These days, I'm indebted to Senior's treatment and guidance, and I'm extremely grateful. I should have left the mountain as soon as possible, but I coveted Senior's formation and shamelessly stayed on the mountain again and again. I've really let Senior down. I feel guilty, please punish me, Senior. I'll gladly endure any punishment. His expression was extremely solemn, and his eyes were calm and even a little relaxed, as if the shackles in his heart had been removed. Seeing this, Lin Feng faintly smiled, waving his hand. No need to be so courteous. You're a rare talent, so I'm just giving you a few pointers. To me, it's a small matter, but to you, it can barely be counted as an opportunity. How you walk the path of cultivation in the future, and how far you can ultimately walk, will still depend on yourself. Li Yuanfang opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end he didn't make a sound. A dazed and confused expression appeared on his face that was always firm and calm. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Here with me, you might as well carefully consider the path you want to walk in the future." Slowly Li Yuanfang nodded his head. Lin Feng looked at him, his mind suddenly slightly moving, and a sound transmission crystal in his hand shattered. The other side of the communication was the Cellerita's Sword Sect Master, Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light. Sect Master Lin, I've brought along my sect's disciple Tao Yaoyao to specially pay a visit. Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light's voice was calm and without ripples. After hearing this, Lin Feng silently said, "You're most welcome." His divine sense sensed for a moment, and with a light clap of his hands, a crack split open in the void. Boundless purple chi flowed into the crack, passing through the void and arriving at the vast thousand world. At this moment, on a mountain peak in the Kunlun mountain range, two people stood. One was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s. His face was like jade, and his black hair was like a waterfall. On both sides of his temples, two strands of snow-white hair hung down, and his eyes were filled with majesty. Behind him stood a white-clothed woman. She was extremely beautiful, and her facial features were picturesque, but she had an extremely strong aggressiveness. Although she was incomparably ostentatious, she did not appear domineering. It was just that her eyes revealed a very obvious desire to fight. It was Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light and Tao Yaoyao. The void split open in front of them, and boundless purple chi paved a path in front of them. Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light took the lead, and Tao Yaoyao followed closely behind. Through the purple chi path, the two arrived at Yujing Mountain together. Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light's pupils slightly contracted, and he saw a young man dressed in purple with black clothes standing on the mountain peak. The young man calmly cupped his fists towards him. Xianmen Tianzong Xiao Yan, I welcome Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light on behalf of my master. Chapter 501. The reason why Swordsman Flowing Light brought Tao Yaoyao to visit was very simple. It was naturally because of the heaven-mending vine in Lin Feng's hands. Tao Yaoyao was the most talented descendant of the Celeritas sword sect in the last 1,000 years. She was accepted by Swordsman Flowing Light as a personal disciple and has always been carefully nurtured. Hundreds of years ago, Tao Yaoyao had already reached the late stage of the golden elixir and was a rising star who became famous in the entire divine land. Not only did her cultivation level rise rapidly, she was also extremely ferocious in actual combat. But it was also because Tao Yaoyao was a competitive person that in the process of fighting with a Yuanying stage-old monster, although she succeeded in surpassing realms and killing her opponent, Tao Yaoyao herself also paid a heavy price. Huge cracks appeared on the golden elixir, almost directly shattering. From then on, Tao Yaoyao could only be forced to return to the mountain to recuperate. Because of the cracks on the golden elixir, the originally imminent nascent soul formation also became a bubble. In the following hundreds of years, Tao Yaoyao was always stuck at the late stage of the golden elixir, wasting most of her good time. In reality, before the incident, many people of the Celeritas sword sect placed their hopes on Tao Yaoyao for another primordial spirit expert to appear in the sect. Even at that time she was only in the golden elixir period, her potential was very high and her future was very far. A year ago, Tao Yaoyao followed Swordsman Flowing Light to the Desolate Sea Assembly, participating with a group of cultivators who could be considered her juniors in terms of age, all in order to be able to enter the ancient Desolate Sea world and obtain the Heaven-Mending Vine, a spiritual item that can only be produced in the ancient Desolate Sea world. The Heaven-Mending Vine has a heaven-defying miraculous effect in repairing damage. Tao Yaoyao was originally determined to get it, but in the end it fell into the hands of Lin Feng's Xianmen Tianzong. Even if Swordsman Flowing Light wanted to personally rob Lin Feng, it would be impossible. Helplessly, he could only pay a visit. At that time, Lin Feng promised that 1 year after the Desolate Sea Assembly, Swordsman Flowing Light could send Tao Yaoyao to personally ask for the medicine. Now that a year had passed, Tao Yaoyao had arrived on time. However, for some unknown reason, Sword Venerable Flowing Light had also come along. This was different from back then when Lin Feng accompanied Xiao Yan to ascend the cloud peak. Lin Feng was clearly supporting his eldest disciple, while this time the Celeritas sword sect had something to ask of him, so their attitude naturally had to be humble. Xiao Yan already understood what had happened here. So, although he found it strange why Sword Venerate Flowing Light would personally make a trip here, he was well-mannered, neither servile nor overbearing as he welcomed Sword Venerate Flowing Light and his disciple. Venerable Lightflow stared at Xiao Yan and slowly nodded. Since he had already reached the primordial spirit realm, he normally would not pay attention to a late-stage golden elixir cultivator. In his thousands of years of life, he had seen too many geniuses rise to prominence, and also seen too many geniuses fall prematurely. Ordinary people would not make him pay attention. But Xiao Yan was definitely an exception. Over a year ago, it was Xiao Yan who ascended the cloud-traversing peak. With his early-stage golden elixir cultivation, he fought against the early-stage Yuanying crown prince Shi Chongyun of the Great Qin dynasty. Afterwards, he completed the bet with Celerita's sword sect disciple Murong Yenran. In front of all the spectators, he crossed the Yin fire tribulation on the spot after his victory and advanced to the mid-stage golden elixir, greatly losing the face of the Celerita's sword sect. Meeting again today, Sword Venerable Lightflow could tell with a glance that Xiao Yan's cultivation had already soared to late-stage golden elixir. Right now only a little over a year had passed since that day on the cloud-traversing peak. With Sword Venerable Lightflow's eyesight, he could naturally tell that although Xiao Yan had cultivated in the time acceleration grotto heaven, his time was extremely limited. To be able to achieve such a huge improvement in such a short time, even a primordial spirit realm cultivator like him would have to raise his eyebrows. Moreover, Sword Venerable Lightflow could clearly feel that Xiao Yan's body contained an extremely terrifying power. The increase in true combat power was even greater than the increase in cultivation level. Tao Yaoyao was also constantly sizing up Xiao Yan. A year ago on the cloud-traversing peak, she was in closed-door training and did not meet up with Xiao Yan. Afterwards, she felt rather regretful. Although she was a woman, she had a strong and aggressive personality. Before the Desolate Sea Assembly, she had always wanted to compete with Xiao Yan. She had felt that it was a pity that Xiao Yan did not participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly. However, after witnessing the battle between Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, her heart trembled. Through Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, she could roughly estimate Xiao Yan's strength. At that time, if her golden elixir did not have any problems, she might still have a fighting chance. However, with the golden elixir cracked, she most likely would not be a match for him. Facing the current Xiao Yan, she felt immense pressure. Her intuition told her that even if she was in her peak state, she would still not be a match for Xiao Yan. In fact, even if she successfully formed her nascent soul and advanced to the Yuanying stage, she might not have much chance of winning. Xiao Yan brought Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light and Tao Yaoyao to his sect's All-Heaven Great Hall. After entering the hall, he saw Lin Feng silently sitting on the main seat. Seeing that Xiao Yan had brought people in, Lin Feng stood up from his seat and smiled. Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light, my greetings. Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier. Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light stared at Lin Feng for a while and said calmly, Celestial Gate Master, you are too polite. It is us, Master and Disciple, who have disturbed you. Tao Yaoyao also came up and bowed to Lin Feng. Although she had always been fearless, she knew that Lin Feng was someone that even her master had to be careful when dealing with. Ever since Lin Feng broke the 6 Meridian Heaven Immortal Sword formation and killed the Celestial Heaven Sword Monarch, the entire Divine Land had already tacitly acknowledged Lin Feng's status as a big shot. Lin Feng didn't beat around the bush. After glancing at Tao Yaoyao, he said to Xiao Yan, bring this little friend to the medicinal valley to harvest a piece of heaven-mending vine. Xiao Yan bowed. Disciple obeys. He turned to Tao Yaoyao and said, Fellow Taoist Tao, please follow me. Venerable Swordsman Flowing Light nodded slightly at Tao Yaoyao. Tao Yaoyao bowed to Lin Feng again and thanked him. Junior thanks Celestial Gate Master for your great kindness. The two left the All-Heaven Great Hall together and walked towards the medicinal valley. Xiao Yan sent a voice transmission to Yang Qing in the Nirvana Paradise. Yang Qing was the supervisor of the medicinal valley. Although he said that Xiao Yan didn't need to inform him when he entered the valley to harvest herbs, Xiao Yan would usually inform him every time. Eldest senior brother, just bring that fellow Taoist Tao here. I'm in the medicinal valley right now. Receiving Yang Qing's reply, Xiao Yan shrugged his shoulders. Crossing his arms behind his head, he walked towards the medicinal valley unhurriedly. Tao Yaoyao followed behind him. Her expression was also very relaxed. She looked around and looked at every grass and tree on the peak of Jade Capital Mountain with interest, praising endlessly from her mouth. They entered the entrance of the medicinal valley and passed through the mountain rocks. They came into the valley and saw a fertile medicinal field filled with all kinds of medicinal herbs and spirit herbs. Wisps of white mist gushed out from many of the spirit herbs, and gradually condensed into white baby shadows in the air. These baby shadows revolved around Ji Hao's body, running around happily, and emitting a strong medicinal aura. Tao Yaoyao's eyes flashed. So many medicinal herbs have become spirits. The Celeritas sword sect also has their own medicinal field. After many years of accumulation, the medicinal herbs that have become spirits are similarly not few. But Xianmen Tianzong has only been established for a short period of time. Yet they also have such a large-scale and high-quality medicinal field. Tao Yaoyao cannot help but look at them in a new light. She is a person with good eyesight and naturally knows that the more unremarkable and more basic and ordinary things are, the more they can often reflect the foundation of a sect. Tao Yaoyao's gaze fell into Xiaoyan's eyes. Even though he does not know what Tao Yaoyao is thinking, he can still roughly guess. He could not help but laugh in his heart. This is only the medicinal field under normal conditions. If the lucky heaven spirit soil is spread out, it would be even stronger. There are already 2 people in the medicinal field. One is a youth in purple with a gentle appearance. Tao Yaoyao once saw him at the Desolate Sea Assembly and recognized him as Xiao Yan's 5th junior brother Yang Qing. He is also the person that Xiao Yan contacted just now. As for the other youth with a dark and skinny appearance, she has no impression of him at all. When Xiao Yan saw him, he smiled and said, "Yo, Yuan Fang, you are here too." The dark, skinny, and tall youth is Li Yuanfang. After he returned from Lin Feng's place, he coincidentally met Yang Qing. The 2 of them chatted about Dao techniques. As they chatted, they came to the medicinal valley together. Yang Qing had medicinal herbs to take care of, so Li Yuanfang patiently waited at the side. He quietly watched as Yang Qing took care of each stalk of spirit grass, watching with relish. To him, this kind of meticulous matter was very interesting. Compared to the complete rigor of formations, plants are full of life, and Li Yuanfang also felt that it is very interesting. Seeing that Xiao Yan and Tao Yaoyao came together, Li Yuanfang bowed seriously. Elder Xiao. Xiao Yan is already used to his strict manner. After greeting him, he immediately said to Yang Qing, 5th junior brother, "I brought this fellow Daoist Tao here. Under Master's orders, we are here to cut off a section of the heaven-mending vine. It is naturally the best that you are here. You are more skilled than I am, so you can handle it." Yang Qing smiled and nodded. He took the lead and walked to where the heaven-mending vine was. The other 3 followed behind him. As they walked, Yang Qing and Li Yuanfang continued to exchange their views on Dao techniques. However, in front of Tao Yaoyao, Yang Qing used the method of using transcendence energy to transmit his voice. Thus, Li Yuanfang used the same method as him. Lin Feng had once instructed the disciples that they do not need to avoid Li Yuanfang when discussing Dao techniques. However, Tao Yaoyao naturally could not enjoy the same treatment. As the 4 of them walked forward, Tao Yaoyao looked at Li Yuanfang curiously. Based on his speech and behavior, he did not seem like someone from Xianmen Tianzong. However, he could still move around in a core area like the Medicine Valley. Moreover, he did not avoid taking a spirit medicine like the heaven-mending vine. When they arrived, they saw a dark green vine attached to the mountain rock. It was emerald green in color and was overflowing with spirit qi. Tao Yaoyao has always been a big-hearted person, but when she saw this vine, her breathing could not help but pause. This was the heaven-mending vine that she dreamed of. She had waited hundreds of years for the ancient desolate sea world to open, but in the end, she still missed it. "Fellow Taoist Tao, please wait a moment." Yang Qing walked forward and started to use his magic power to cut the vine. His movements were slow and very gentle. Dark green lunar true water appeared at the same time and nourished the vine. Yang Qing's method did not harm the vitality of the spirit medicine, but it could also successfully harvest the spirit medicine. However, it was slower and needed some time. Tao Yaoyao could naturally wait. Xiao Yan had always been an impatient person, but he did not care about such a short period of time. On the contrary, Li Yuanfang, who was silently standing at the side, counted the time with his fingers and nodded at Xiao Yan and the other two. My apologies, I will take my leave. After he cupped his fists, he turned and left without stopping. Xiao Yan and Yang Qing also looked as if they were used to it. Tao Yaoyao looked strangely at the leaving Li Yuanfang. This, fellow Taoist, what is he doing? Xiao Yan and Yang Qing looked at each other and shook their heads and laughed. Xiao Yan smiled but did not say anything. Yang Qing smiled and explained, his time is up. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.